Leaving the alley, Liam noticed the men weren't following him anymore. He let out a breath of relief, but a strange thought surfaced. Is the monarch out of his mind? Why on earth would he send men to protect me? He wondered if Ethan had pulled some strings behind scenes. It was the only explanation that made sense. Liam decided he needed to tell Caleb Thorne about this. As the head of a top-tier family, Caleb was on equal footing with Lord Charles and better position to negotiate. Just as he raised his hand to hail a cab, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. It was Leo. Without a second thought, Liam answered. Leo's frantic voice exploded from the other end. Liam, something's happened. It sounded like he was running, his breathing heavy and ragged. A knot formed in Liam's stomach, but he kept his voice steady. Don't panic. Tell me what's going on. Chloe's gone. Leo gasped, struggling to get the words out. We had a swim meet this afternoon. Chloe and I were in the same group. She said she was going to the locker room to change, but she never came out. I had her friend, Sandy Cho, go look for her, but the locker room was empty. Leo was clearly spiraling, his voice trembling with panic. The more he panicked, the calmer Liam became. He frowned. So Chloe.She is missing. It looks that way. Sandy and I have searched the whole campus. We can't find her anywhere. We're about to ask security to pull the surveillance footage. Right, Liam said, his mind racing. What time did she disappear? 3 p.m. Right before the event started. Liam checked his watch. It was 3:30. Chloe had been missing for half an hour. 30 minutes. Even at top speed, she couldn't have gotten out of London. She had to be nearby. Liam was about to head back to the university when his phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Normally, Liam would ignore a call from an unlisted number, but now, he had to answer. His eyes narrowed as he slid his finger across the screen. Just as he expected, it was Chloe's kidnapper. But the voice that greeted him was the last one he ever would have guessed. Penelope Hamilton. Well, Liam, I had no idea you had a little sister, she chirped. Liam's eyes went cold. He had no idea how Penelope had managed to pull this off, but her crossing this line was a fatal mistake. His philosophy had always been to leave people alone unless they came after him. He'd been shocked by Penelope's bizarre rant at the university event, but he'd written it off as her problem, not his. But now she had jumped right in his face. If he let this slide, he really would be a doormat. Still, Penelope couldn't have this much power on her own. The only person Liam could imagine helping her was Ethan. But Liam had just sent the royal guards away, men sent by Lord Charles himself to protect him. Even if Ethan had a death wish, he wouldn't dare defy his own grandfather. That meant someone else was pulling the strings. Liam's eyes narrowed. What do you want? Me? Penelope giggled, her voice dripping with triumph. Just stand right in front of the university entrance and don't move. A black sedan will pull up for you. Get in. You'll find out the rest when you get there. So, she's being cautious, Liam thought with a cold smirk. Penelope, how stupid do you think I am? You really expect me to just walk into your trap? Is that so? I guess your precious little sister isn't that important to you after all, Penelope said smugly. He could hear her turn away from the phone and give an order. You guys, strip her clothes off. You dare. Liam roared, stunned that Penelope could be so vicious. Then get in the car. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your dear sister will walk out of here with her dignity intact. The line went dead. Liam gripped his phone, a burning desire to know who was backing Penelope consuming him. His gaze hardened. He didn't rush toward the university gate. A kidnapping situation meant he was on the defensive. Cassandra was waiting for him at home, and he couldn't let her get dragged into this. He thought for a moment, then opened his contacts and called Caleb Thorne. After Liam gave him a brief summary, Caleb slammed his hand on his desk. That goddamn monster. How dare she kidnap my girl? She must have a death wish. Hearing that, a wave of warmth and relief washed over Liam. Caleb truly saw him and Chloe as family. Uncle Caleb, calm down, he said quickly. The key right now is that I don't know who's helping Penelope. Caleb Thorne was not an irrational man. He understood immediately. So you're planning to go see for yourself? Yes. It was always easy talking to smart people. Good, Caleb said without hesitation. Wipe them all out in one go. I'll speak with Charles and have him assist with the investigation. On his home turf, his people can move fast. Okay, as for Cassandra, Liam trailed off, the promise they'd made to get married while she was pregnant weighing on him. He pushed the thought down. She doesn't know about this yet. I don't want her to worry. Simple. I'll just tell her I sent you abroad to handle some Thorne family business. You'll be back in a few days. Okay. Thank you, Uncle Caleb. Don't thank me. We're family, Caleb said with a laugh before his voice turned serious. But you protect yourself. Don't let what happened last time. I won't. I'll come back safe. After promising Caleb, Liam hung up and sent a quick message to Leo, telling him not to come back to the estate for a few days. Then, following Penelope's instructions, he walked to the university entrance. Sure enough, a few moments later, a black sedan pulled up to the curb. He narrowed his eyes as the door opened. He ducked his head and got in. The second he was inside, the man beside him forced a blindfold over his eyes and tied his hand behind his back. Liam didn't resist. The knots were child's play for him. Shortly after he was bound, the car started moving. After about an hour's drive, it finally stopped. He was pulled out of the car and led for a few minutes before being pushed down into a chair. The next second, Penelope's voice echoed around him. "Liam, you actually came." Liam didn't respond, sitting in silence. He heard Penelope say to someone else, "Sister, I brought Liam. You can." Before she could finish, her triumphant voice was cut short by a piercing, blood-curdling scream. With his eyes covered, his hearing was magnified. After the scream, Liam felt a cool draft brush past him, carrying the faint scent of gardenias and a heavy sense of danger. Liam's eyes narrowed. His hands, tied behind his back, were already free. He was about to move when he felt the blindfold being lifted. The first thing he saw was a familiar face, her anxious voice washing over him. "Liam, are you okay?" It was Sylvia Shaw, the woman who had vanished from his life. This was the last thing he expected. After their last meeting, he thought he'd made things perfectly clear. He never imagined she would be this persistent. Across from him, Penelope Hamilton lay on the floor, her eyes wide with disbelief. A small paring knife was embedded in her slender neck, red fluid seeping through her fingers as she clutched at the wound. Her mouth opened, as if trying to speak, but no sound came out. It was obvious she was fading fast, her death only a matter of time. A dozen men in black, armed, stood around the spacious living room. Chloe was nowhere to be seen. Seeing Liam remain seated, Sylvia threw her arms around him, pulling his head into her embrace and stroking the back of his hair. "Don't be afraid, Liam," she soothed. "It's all over now. I've taken care of the person who hurt you. No one can ever hurt you again." Her voice was gentle, like she was calming a frightened rabbit. Anyone less sharp might have been fooled by her tender act. But Liam was no idiot. The mysterious backer he'd been wondering about? It had to be Sylvia. Who else could have shown up at such a perfect moment? Twice now, Sylvia had harmed people close to him, all for his sake. Liam couldn't stomach it. He ruthlessly pushed her away, his voice cold as steel. "Cut the act, Sylvia." As he pushed her, Sylvia's expression didn't falter. She met his gaze as if she'd been expecting it. The atmosphere froze. No one paid any attention to the dying Penelope. After a long moment of silence, Sylvia suddenly smiled, a desolate, heartbreaking expression. "It seems I can't hide anything from you." No kidding. Chloe was missing. Besides Caleb, no one else knew he had come here alone, not even Leo. And here was Sylvia, showing up at the perfect time, claiming she was here to save him. The whole thing was a joke. "This knight in shining armor stunt is a little clumsy, don't you think?" Liam sneered, his gaze falling on the barely breathing Penelope. "Next time, I suggest you hire a better actress." "If I had a choice, why would I have picked her?" Sylvia said with a bitter smile. But in the next second, her eyes turned to ice. "So what if you've seen through it? You're a bird in my cage now." As she spoke, she lunged forward, her long fingers seizing his chin and forcing him to look up at her. "You will never get rid of me." She squeezed hard, his jaw aching from the pressure. But with Chloe still missing, Liam didn't resist for now. He just stared back at her, his voice flat. "Sylvia, I thought I made myself very clear last time. No matter what you do, you can't have me." "That's just what you think." As if he'd lit a fuse, Sylvia exploded. "You think just because you made it clear, everything is fine? You think because you rejected me, I'll just give up? You've just been bewitched by that bitch Cassandra Thorne. Anything she can do for you, I can do better. What is it about her that I can't compare to?" Her crazed shouts echoed through the living room. Liam froze, staring at the unhinged Sylvia with a sense of disbelief. Compare? Love had never been something you could measure. The moment Cassandra had walked into his heart was something even he hadn't anticipated. How could he possibly answer that? After a long silence, Liam spoke softly. "Give it up. I don't love you. That's all there is to it. Love is just that irrational." His calm, almost dismissive tone pushed her over the edge. Sylvia lunged again, grabbing his collar, her face twisting with rage. "Irrational? Huh." Liam watched her, any trace of her former gentleness gone. Her entire face was contorted in fury. He'd seen that look before on Cassandra. But that was a long time ago, when he had rejected her, and she couldn't control her anger. Back then, when he saw that expression on Cassandra, he'd initially thought of just giving up and letting fate take its course. But as he got to know her, He realized she would never truly hurt him, and he eventually started to take her affection for granted. But the woman standing before him now was a true, cold-blooded killer. The bodyguards were standing far away. That knife wound. No one but Sylvia could have landed it so precisely in Penelope's throat from that distance. His eyes flickered, and he changed the subject as if it didn't concern him. "Are you going to kill her?" Penelope, pale from blood loss, clutched the handle of the knife, her confused eyes now filled with the terror of impending death. She stared at them pleadingly. Sylvia paused, her anger subsiding slightly, only to be replaced by a bloodthirsty sneer. She glanced down condescendingly. "What? Do you feel sorry for her?" Penelope, having figured out the relationship between Sylvia and Liam, looked at Liam with pleading eyes, begging him to say something to send her to a hospital. But Liam's answer crushed her last hope. He shrugged nonchalantly. "Not really." As if she already knew the answer, Sylvia let out a cold laugh. That single word ignited a final, blazing rage in Penelope. They really weren't going to help her. They were just going to let her die here. Setting aside her identity as a Hamilton heiress, she had faced rock bottom before, being scammed, forced to make films to survive, then clawing her way out of that hellhole. She had fought her way up, earned a place at Gatton University, even managed to connect with Ethan. But all of it had changed the moment she ran into Liam again. And now, she was really going to die. At 28, she couldn't accept it. Everything she had clawed her way up for was turning to dust. She had never imagined that she, a perfectly healthy person, would die so senselessly. Her vision blurred, and terror reached its peak. The tearing pain in her throat was forgotten. As if grasping for one last thread of life, she summoned all her strength and screamed. You hate him, don't you? Why? Kill me." As her voice faded, she coughed up a great mouthful of blood. The crimson liquid splattered on the smooth floor, its color darkening instantly. Liam, sensing this might be Penelope's last words, felt a flicker of curiosity. For my sake? She wouldn't kill Penelope for my sake. Or maybe, this is a warning, to show me she's serious, that she will kill if I don't obey. "Hey," Sylvia scoffed, as if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world. She released Liam's collar and looked down at Penelope with disdain. "I do hate him. I only hate that I'm not the one he loves. As for you," her gaze dropped, devoid of any emotion, and she burst out laughing. "Who the hell are you? Anyone who dares to stand against Liam has to die." "Ugh." Penelope tried to speak again, but another gush of blood was all that came out. Sylvia, seemingly oblivious, continued her merciless tirade. "Oh, by the way, Miss Hamilton, I didn't just kill you." She raised a hand, ticking off fingers with a sickeningly cheerful smile, as if recounting happy memories. "Your older sister, Isabel, died in prison months ago. I arranged that. Your dear brother, Jason, too. I'm the one who ruined your parents. Your mother is working in a mine now to make ends meet. I arranged that job for her. And as for why I gave her a job, it was a confession of crimes, and every word was a shock to Liam. He had known Isabel and Jason were in jail, but he hadn't cared enough to follow up. He never imagined they were already dead. Miss Hamilton, since you're about to die anyway, why don't you guess what will happen when your family's only source of income is taken away? Can you imagine their despair?" She said it like a joke, but there was no humor in her tone, only cruel mockery. Liam had once thought she was gentle. When she had kidnapped Chloe and Leo to threaten him, he had thought she was cunning. But this was pure sadism. She spoke of murder with a smile, every word dripping with cruelty. In that instant, Liam realized something critical. Until he found Chloe, he could not defy Sylvia. If he did, she would treat Chloe the same way she was treating Penelope. Penelope was down to her last breath, yet she was forced to listen to this gleeful taunting, a woman using the most playful tone to deliver the most brutal truths. "So my sister and brother have been dead all this time?" Penelope's eyes widened slightly. For the first time, the thought that none of this mattered vanished. As if experiencing a final moment of clarity, memories flooded her vision. A time when Liam was still her brother. She was abroad, but she would come home for holidays. Penelope, Noel, Liam, and their parents, all together. Liam would proudly report the family's profits to their father. If there was extra, he would suggest giving the money to his 3 sisters, taking them shopping for clothes and makeup. Noel would complain that he had no new ideas, that it was always clothes. So later, he gave Noel a movie contract he had secured. She had been so happy, and Penelope had been jealous. Their parents would just smile, watching them bicker in the living room. That was before Jason came back. Everything was so perfect. Liam was smart and capable. No matter what trouble they got into, he would fix it. Even though they were his older sisters, he was so exceptional. He was more like an older brother to them. But now, Liam was right in front of her, showing none of the panic he used to have when she was in trouble. He just watched calmly as this woman who was using her murdered her so casually. She could never figure out what had led to Liam's cold indifference. So what if Jason framed him? He could have cleared his name on the spot. She would have believed him. A sudden, releasing smile spread across Penelope's face. If she could do it all over again, if she had chosen to believe him when he was cast out, to stand by his side without hesitation, then none of this would have happened. It wouldn't have happened. Penelope Hamilton was dead. Right in front of Liam and Sylvia, she drew her last breath. As her eyes closed, a smile lingered on her lips, an expression of release. Watching this, Liam felt a strange pang. She did have a spark. When pushed into a corner, she had fought back. Of the three sisters, she was the most like him. He admitted he had been selfish at first, but his environment had forced him to be. Penelope, however, was selfish to the core, a person of questionable character. But in the end, her crimes didn't deserve death. Liam had never imagined her end would be so sudden. He fell silent for a long time. Seeing Penelope die, Sylvia glanced at Liam. When she saw him staring silently at Penelope's body, she flew into a rage. "You do feel sorry for her," she shrieked, pointing an accusing finger at Liam. Liam was startled out of his thoughts. Sorry for her? That's a stretch. She was an acquaintance, and watching anyone you know die right in front of you would affect any normal person. Sylvia, convinced, stormed over to Liam and seized his chin. "You feel sorry for your sister. You feel sorry for Cassandra Thorne. You even feel sorry for your enemies. But you won't even spare me a single glance. Liam, you've really got some nerve." With the culprit right in front of him, Liam didn't want to argue. He had said everything he could say. Sylvia was clearly beyond reason. What was the point of being polite? The only reason he was sitting here calmly was because he still hadn't found Chloe. Knowing full well that Liam's lack of resistance was because of Chloe, Sylvia sneered. "Chloe is locked up. I suggest you get smart and start pleasing me. Otherwise, I'll make sure she ends up just like Penelope." Her threat was real. She would kill. Calculating the time, Liam figured the royal forces should be on their way. All he had to do was wait for them to arrive. So he didn't struggle. He simply tilted his head up, meeting the enraged, contorted face of Sylvia, and smiled. "So, Miss Shaw, how exactly would you like me to please you?" The more he acted this way, the more it proved he wasn't doing it for her. Sylvia knew this perfectly well. She glanced at her bodyguards and gestured with her hand. "Go get what I prepared." Liam froze. The next second, he heard a clanking and rattling sound. He looked up to see two bodyguards approaching, carrying a long, silver chain that coiled like a snake. Liam was fairly certain he hadn't seen anything like this in at least half a lifetime. This woman was even more intense than Cassandra. Was she planning to truss him up like a Thanksgiving turkey with that thing? He stared, dumbfounded. Sylvia's lips curved into a smirk. She pointed at Liam. "Tie him up." "Yes, ma'am." The two men in black nodded and walked straight toward him. Sylvia stood to the side, arms crossed, looking at Liam with contempt. If he let them tie him with that, it would take a long time to break free. Liam narrowed his eyes, about to threaten Sylvia, but as if she'd read his mind, Sylvia smiled. "I wouldn't waste your breath. I've already given my men the order. If they don't hear from me for a day, they are to kill Chloe immediately." One mention of Chloe was all it took to put him in a vice. He had no choice. This was the reality he had to face after choosing to accept Cassandra. He'd known that by being with her, anyone connected to him would become a vulnerability. That was an undeniable fact. As the men approached, Liam's eyes darkened. "You know this is pointless, right?" "Whether it's pointless or not is something we'll find out after we do it," Sylvia shot back without hesitation. Seeing him abandon his struggle, the fire in her eyes burned even hotter. "For Chloe." He gave up struggling for Chloe. "His eyes have never once held me in them." Liam didn't move, letting them bind him. Fortunately, he had spoken to Caleb before he left. Now he just had to wait for the royal forces to arrive. As long as Chloe was safe, he could handle his side of things. Seeing Liam tightly bound, Sylvia's face went cold. She waved her hand. "Go get some food." At her command, her men scurried off. After an exquisite meal was brought out, she ordered them to carry Penelope's body away and dismissed everyone from the living room, leaving only Liam. In the vast room, Liam was tied to an office chair. Sylvia sat beside him, holding a plate of sliced moose cake, acting as if they were old friends meeting for afternoon tea. Her smiling face was unreadable. "You probably haven't eaten since this afternoon. You must be hungry. I had this cake specially flown in from Las Vegas. Have some." As she spoke, She moved the plate toward Liam's mouth. Who knew if this venomous woman had poisoned the cake? There was no way Liam would eat it. He turned his head away without a word. Sylvia's eyes darkened, but then she suddenly smiled. If one ignored the fact that he was tied up, his reaction was almost like a pouting lover. Once she framed it that way, her anger dissipated. She playfully scooped up a piece with her fork, used her free hand to turn Liam's head back, forcing him to watch, and then placed the cake in her own mouth. After a few chews, she swallowed and smiled. I didn't put anything in it. You can eat without worry. Everyone knew Sylvia came from a pharmaceutical family. She could have easily taken an antidote beforehand, or maybe she wanted to poison herself. Liam sneered. You really think I'd eat anything you give me? His face was still a cold mask. In fact, he'd never shown her anything but a cold face. Sylvia's expression instantly shattered. Originally, Liam hadn't wanted to make things this ugly, but this woman had killed someone in front of him and was now treating him like this. There was no need for courtesy. Liam didn't hesitate to mock her directly. Mousse cake really is a wonderful thing. Sylvia's hand froze. What do you mean? You didn't know, did you? After I got together with Cassandra, I made her a cake by hand every day. We'd knead the dough together, watch tutorials together, whip the cream together. Liam's face was blank, his speech deliberately slow. As Sylvia's expression crumbled further, he continued his provocation. And when the cream was ready, I'd intentionally scoop a bit out and dot it on her face. Then she'd get mad and say she was going to turn me into a messy kitten too. Slap. Liam didn't finish his sentence. A sharp slap landed across his face. Sylvia had completely broken. If she had heard this from Cassandra, maybe she wouldn't have been so angry. But the one telling her these romantic stories was Liam. The man she loved most was telling her, to her face, about how deeply in love he was with another woman. Even the most patient person would have run out of patience. Liam felt a fiery sting on his cheek. Sylvia's sharp nails must have broken the skin. He couldn't see it. There was no mirror, and he couldn't move. He fell silent. Since Sylvia wasn't treating him like a person, then he would stop acting like one. He would stab her right where it hurt the most. The sound of the slap was deafening. Sylvia, coming to her senses, stared at her own hand in disbelief. Her pale palm was already red, a stinging pain spreading from it. She was jolted back to reality. What did I just do? She hit him. She frantically looked at Liam, saw the nail marks on his cheek, and her heart clenched in panic. She quickly put down the cake and cupped his face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. I'll get you some medicine. She was rambling incoherently. Didn't mean to hit me? So it was just instinct, then. Liam finished for her. He instinctively tried to smirk, but the pain in his face made him stop. He looked at Sylvia blankly. He didn't know when this gentle woman had become so fractured. He remembered her as a child, always smiling no matter what she was doing. But now, because of this obsession, she had turned into this. Liam didn't know whether to call it tragic or something else. He couldn't even muster up hatred for her. A person controlled by obsession was, in the end, pitiful, wasn't it? Meeting Liam's gaze, Sylvia saw it, pity. She wasn't someone who needed pity. Who was he to look at her like that? Had he still not figured out who was in charge here? Sylvia snapped, gripping his chin tightly, nearly hysterical. Who are you pitying? I forbid you from looking at me like that. I won't allow it. Liam looked at her impassively, as if she were a stranger. Stop being crazy. So what if you have my body? I will never cooperate with you. Is that so? Sylvia suddenly smiled. She slowly glanced towards a window. Right in front of Liam, at her command, her men brought in a projector. After setting up the projector, Sylvia walked over to Liam and forcibly turned his head, making him look at the screen on the wall. The screen lit up. On it was Chloe, bound hand and foot in a small room. Not far from her, a staircase led upwards. A wine cellar. Liam recognized Chloe's location almost instantly, but there were far too many wine cellars in the UK. Sylvia wouldn't be stupid enough to hold Chloe in the basement of this very villa. He had no way of finding her right now. As he was thinking, Sylvia's voice came from beside him. Liam, you can choose not to listen to me, but your little sister is going to suffer for it. As she spoke, she picked up her phone. A few seconds later, Liam saw a beam of light cut through the darkness on the screen. A bound Chloe frantically shifted, her eyes blindfolded. Though he couldn't see her expression, he could tell she was terrified. What do you want? Liam shot a glare at Sylvia. Nothing much, Sylvia smiled. Since her brother won't behave, his sister will have to take his punishment. Her tone sharpened as she once again gripped Liam's chin. Liam, I can't bear to hurt you, but I can't say the same for others. She was using Chloe to threaten him. Liam's eyes widened, staring in disbelief at this completely unhinged woman. As he watched the masked man on the screen approach Chloe, who was curling back in fear, Liam gritted his teeth. Enough. The moment he spoke, a triumphant glint flashed in Sylvia's eyes. She tapped her phone a few times, and the man on the screen froze. Under duress, Liam finally relented. What do you want me to do? Just say it. Sylvia beamed. She pointed a finger at the exquisite food in front of them. Eat your meal first. Fine. I'll eat. Liam nodded and opened his mouth. Seeing his obedience, Sylvia was overjoyed. She put down her phone, quickly picked up a plate, and was about to feed Liam a forkful of pasta. But as the fork neared his lips, Liam turned his head away. First, make him leave Chloe's room. It's still for Chloe's sake. Sylvia forced down her anger and tapped her phone a few more times. On the screen, the masked man climbed back up the stairs, and the room went dark again. Sylvia smiled. Is that better? Wait, Liam said again. Are you ever going to stop? Sylvia's patience was wearing thin. Didn't he understand who was in charge here? Liam narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. Don't be in such a rush, Miss Shaw. If you want me to listen to you, you have to meet my demands, right? Otherwise, what leverage do you have? It was as if they were back in the old days, when he would playfully cajole her. Sylvia had to admit he had a point. She fell silent for a moment, then put the plate down again, looking at Liam coldly. Just state your demands. This is your only chance. Liam raised an eyebrow, his composure returning. He looked at Sylvia with a playful smile. Let me see Chloe. What? For a second, Sylvia thought she'd misheard. Did he have any idea what his situation was, making such a blunt request? I said, take me to see Chloe, Liam repeated, not at all annoyed. Of course, this was also a stalling tactic. He figured an hour had passed already. What was taking the royals so long? For a noble family, they were incredibly slow. Sylvia stared at Liam's defiant face in shock. Do you have any idea what you're saying? Of course I do, Liam smiled. You showed me the video, but it's so dark in there, I can't see clearly. Who knows if the girl tied up is even Chloe? He wasn't wrong. Sylvia's eyes darkened. She knew he was a tough nut to crack. If she didn't make him give up hope, getting him to obey would be impossible. She paused, about to speak, but Liam continued. Oh, and by the way, even if you have someone take off her blindfold for me to see, I still won't believe it. Makeup technology is so advanced these days. Who knows if it's just someone in a mask? Plus, this is a video. If you use special effects to fake it, then I'd just be a sitting duck, wouldn't I? You. She never expected Liam to be so sharp-tongued. With just a few sentences, it wasn't him who was the sitting duck. Sylvia felt like she was the one being played. She couldn't be bothered to argue with him. She threatened him harshly. Don't think you can talk your way into seeing her. Make one more unreasonable demand, and I'll have her flayed alive, beaten to death. Same old trick. Threats. But the newly composed Liam was completely immune. He looked at her directly and embraced mediocrity. Then go ahead. As long as I don't believe it's Chloe, you can beat her all you want, and it won't have anything to do with me. We'll see if I care. His words made Sylvia's eyes fly open. She never thought that at such a critical moment, Liam would resort to playing the rogue. While she was still in shock, Liam added another outrageous comment. Why are you so quiet? I do care about my sister, but you insist on trying to fool me with a fake video. If you actually beat Chloe to death, then we become enemies. And besides, if this whole thing blows up in your face later, I'll just be racked with guilt. What do you think people will say about you? Sylvia, whose entire plan hinged on threatening Liam with Chloe, was now rendered speechless by his eloquent counterattack. He was right. If he insisted that it wasn't Chloe, what good were her threats? Tangled in his logic, the infuriated Sylvia was completely trapped in her own mind games. But then, Sylvia suddenly smiled. No, Liam, you're wrong. From the moment I decided to kidnap you, I stopped caring what other people think. She picked up her phone. Liam's gaze darted to the screen. In the darkness, a sliver of light appeared again. As he watched the masked man approach, he narrowed his eyes. He had said his piece. He couldn't back down now. The royals were taking too long. At this point, he could only rely on himself. But as he watched the man touch Chloe, Liam's composure started to crack. He was about to speak when he heard Sylvia's voice. Fine, I'll have her brought here. Let her see with her own eyes how her dear brother pleases me. Her cold eyes locked onto Liam, and she grabbed his collar, her voice wild. If you dare to resist again, for every time you resist, I will beat her once in front of you, until she's dead. /N. Don't worry, there's no cheating. One female lead. I promise. Liam's brow arched. That level of cruelty was definitely Sylvia's style. But other things weren't important. The priority was to see Chloe and ensure she was safe. It was better than this, where he couldn't confirm if she was dead or alive and was being forced to obey Sylvia's every command. A few moments later, A blindfolded Chloe was pushed into the living room by two men in black. Her stumbling steps, combined with the orange jacket she'd worn that morning, made Liam recognize her instantly. From the moment Sylvia gave the order to Chloe's appearance, less than 10 minutes had passed. Did that mean Sylvia had really hidden Chloe in this villa's wine cellar? Liam shot a surprised glance at Sylvia. He was starting to think he couldn't figure her out at all. Once Chloe was in the living room, Sylvia waved her hand, dismissing the bodyguards and leaving Chloe sitting on the sofa. She turned to Liam. "All right, you've seen your sister. Now you can be obedient, right?" Though blindfolded, Chloe understood what was said. She was in the same room as her brother. Chloe immediately began to struggle, shouting towards the source of the voice. "Brother, don't worry about me. Just run." Sylvia didn't stop her, just shot a contemptuous look at Liam. Hearing this, Liam smiled. "Silly girl, how could I ever leave you behind and run away alone?" It was the first time Liam had ever said something so warm to Chloe. The term of endearment, in particular, brought tears to her eyes the moment he said it. "Brother, you shouldn't have come. The last thing I ever wanted was to be your weakness. If I could, I would rather not be your sister," she cried, her voice trembling. Her words warmed Liam's heart. He was about to comfort her when Sylvia's cold laugh cut in. What a touching display of sibling affection. "So I'm the big bad wolf here, is that it?" Liam shot her a disdainful look and shifted slightly, the iron chains clanking as if to say, "Well, who else would it be? You woman, my brother already said he doesn't like you. Why are you forcing him? Even if you get him through these tricks, will you really be happy?" Chloe's face flushed as she yelled at Sylvia. But as the words left her mouth, she smelled the thick scent of blood in the air. Instantly, she panicked, struggling violently. "What did you do to my brother? Why does it smell like blood in here? I'm telling you, if you dare hurt my brother, I will never let you go." Chloe was visibly frantic. Her struggles only tightened the ropes, leaving several red welts on her slender, pale wrists. Liam realized she was smelling Penelope's blood. He quickly tried to soothe her. "Chloe, don't be afraid. I'm fine. It's someone else's blood." "Someone else's blood?" Chloe froze, her struggles ceasing. Sylvia, watching this unfold, pulled a chair over and sat next to Liam. "All right," she said loudly. "Now you should be willing to eat something, right?" She picked up the cake again, the coldness in her face a clear, final warning. But Liam acted as if he didn't see it. He looked up at Chloe. "If I eat, what about her? My sister hasn't eaten either. Since you're treating, and everyone's here, why not untie us, and we can eat together?" For a fleeting moment, Sylvia actually thought Liam had given in. Of course, that was only if she ignored the flicker of mockery in his eyes. Crash! She slammed the plate down on the table and met Liam's playful gaze. Her patience had run out. "It seems you're still unwilling to listen," she muttered, then waved her hand. A man in black rushed in from outside the living room. Sylvia gave the order without hesitation. "Whip her. Use the whip and keep hitting her until Liam is willing to eat." "Yes, ma'am." The man acknowledged the order, immediately pulling a long whip from his belt. Right in front of Liam, he raised his arm and brought it down hard on Chloe. Crack! The whip struck, and Chloe cried out in pain, falling sideways onto the sofa. A bloody lash mark, shocking to the eye, appeared on her arm. But the pain was nothing compared to what Sylvia had just said. "That woman wants my brother to eat something." Remembering how Sylvia had drugged her and Leo to trick them into eating, Chloe ignored the pain and yelled at Liam. "Brother, don't eat it. Don't you dare eat it. If she has the guts, let them beat me to death. Once I'm dead, I won't be your weakness anymore." She never thought that even in this situation, Chloe would still be on his side. Watching the twisted smile on Sylvia's face, Liam narrowed his eyes and tilted his head slightly to look at her, his voice cold. "Sylvia, do you know what you just done by hitting her?" "Of course I know." Sylvia, her eyes reddened by the sight of blood, had completely lost her sanity. She laughed wildly. "It's you I want. I don't care how I get you. As long as I can keep you. I don't care who I have to kill." "Fine." Liam nodded, his eyes turning dark and cold. He stopped looking at the whipped Chloe and instead focused on the food on the table. "You want me to eat, don't you? Bring it over." Finally getting Liam to concede, Sylvia was ecstatic. She quickly waved for the man in black to stop. Chloe collapsed onto the sofa, 4 or 5 bloody whilst weeping on her arm. Red droplets trickled down the leather and dripped onto the plush carpet below, one after another, spreading through the fibers. A stain on a plush carpet is nearly impossible to clean, just as the relationship between Liam and Sylvia could never go back to the way it was before. Sylvia excitedly brought the food to Liam's mouth. His face was calm, and he opened his mouth like an emotionless robot. Sylvia didn't care. All she saw was his open mouth, and she eagerly fed him, one bite after another, until the entire plate was empty. She then picked up a damp towel and gently wiped his mouth. Was it good? She asked with a smile, watching him swallow the last bite. Liam nodded silently. Are you full? Do you want to eat something else? Just tell me what you want, and I'll have someone make it right now, she asked again. Liam shook his head, his expression numb. Sylvia didn't mind at all. Seeing that Liam was full, she said with satisfaction, Since you've eaten, let's get ready for the next activity. Liam frowned, looking at her blankly. Next activity? Yes, the next one. Sylvia nodded, unable to hide her excitement. It's been so long since I've slept with you. Since everyone's here today, we should definitely do something fun together. Before Liam could respond, Chloe's horrified voice cut through the air. You're despicable. You used me to force my brother. Why didn't you just have him beat me to death? Brother, make her kill me. Even without her sight, Chloe could imagine the scene in front of her. This woman was probably all over her brother, and it was all her fault. If it weren't for her, why would her brother have endured this? So noisy. Gag her. Sylvia's eyes narrowed, and she barked an order. A guard waiting outside came in, stuffed a wet towel into Chloe's mouth, and tied it securely behind her head. Her mouth gagged. Chloe couldn't say a word, only managing muffled protests. Watching this, Liam's face remained impassive. He just looked at Sylvia, then at the vast living room. Sylvia, are you sure you want to do that? Here. With just one sentence, Sylvia understood his meaning. She laughed. Why not? This place is huge. Don't worry. The floor is covered with a plush carpet. Even if you fall, I guarantee you won't feel a thing. Her gaze drifted downwards, and a wicked grin spread across her face. You can roll around as much as you want. Wouldn't that be comfortable? A sudden wave of disgust washed over Liam, but he hid it well. He just looked at Sylvia. And my sister? And your men? Are you just going to let them listen to you moan? If she wasn't going to treat him like a person, then he didn't need to treat her like one. His words were crude and vile, his eyes filled with absolute mockery. The already unhinged Sylvia found this version of Liam to be a complete contrast. He had the face of a well-mannered student, but the words coming out of his mouth were so foul, especially with the chains still wrapped around him. The scene made Sylvia's heart race. She had never seen him with this expression before. It was as if the obedient child from her memories had grown up and was now using his own methods to punish and possess her. In that moment, Sylvia was overcome with emotion. She couldn't help but cup Liam's face. That's it. That's the feeling. What? Liam frowned. Seriously, what is this woman feeling now? Insult me. Say some more. Liam, you're sick. Clearly, a lunatic's logic was beyond a normal person's comprehension. He had gone to great lengths to understand Cassandra, and now he had another psycho, Sylvia, to deal with. Sylvia raised her hand, the web of her thumb and forefinger gripping his chin. As she gently squeezed, the tip of her index finger traced his lips. She was mesmerized. This prey, so easily within her grasp, was angrily cursing her. Meeting Liam's dark eyes, she suddenly had the urge to loosen his chains a little, to act depraved and wild in front of him, to watch him struggle free and then pounce on her, taking what he wanted. The thought alone made her mind reel. 10 minutes had passed since he ate. If there was anything in the food, it should be taking effect by now. But so far, Liam felt nothing unusual. It seemed the food Sylvia prepared was clean. Liam secretly sighed in relief. Looking at her smiling face, he frowned. How long are you going to stare? I could look at this face for a lifetime and never get tired of it. The words came out without a thought. Liam sneered. Is that so? Of course, Sylvia replied, already impatiently reaching for the buttons on his collar. The timing is perfect. Come on. From now on, until tomorrow, the day after, all of time will be ours. Liam raised an eyebrow, his gaze dropping. I don't like being passive. Hearing this, Sylvia's hand froze. She stared at him. But I'm not going to untie you. We can still play without untying me, Liam said with a cold smile, glancing at the sofa. Following his gaze, Sylvia understood instantly. She laughed. Oh, right. You're not comfortable in the chair. The sofa would be much more stable. She took his arm to help him up, but after 2 steps, she realized his ankles were still chained, preventing him from walking. In that moment, she seemed to forget their situation and instinctively bent down to unlock them. Liam remained seated in the chair, looking down at the top of Sylvia's head. The instant the lock clicked open, he kicked out. Before Sylvia could react, his foot was on her chest. Surprisingly, Sylvia wasn't angry, just confused. She looked at Liam, then at his leg, and tilted her head. Is this how you like to play? Liam fell silent. At this moment, it seemed the only thing on this woman's mind was playing. He shifted upwards slightly, the tip of his foot pressing against her throat. He leaned down and asked, "Do you think I could kill you with one kick?" He added a bit more force. It felt like lead pressing down on Sylvia. A normal person would have started struggling, but Sylvia didn't even think about it. She just looked up at Liam, her expression full of devotion. "To die at your feet would be my good fortune." Liam, not even a little bit of devotion. Thinking about his current situation and about Cassandra waiting for him at home, he felt his breathing become difficult. He looked down at Sylvia, his voice cold and emotionless. "Then go ahead and die." As the words fell, he increased the pressure. A sense of suffocation rushed to her head. Sylvia hadn't expected him to be serious. She instinctively tried to struggle, but the next second, the guards at the door rushed in. "Miss," the man in black began, but when he saw the scene in the living room, he froze. He stared at the world turned upside-down tableau, his mouth agape, unable to speak. Hearing the voice, Liam eased the pressure slightly. Sylvia, able to breathe again, gasped for air, but she didn't blame Liam. Instead, she turned her head angrily towards the guard. "Did I say you could come in? Get out." The man in black trembled and quickly bowed his head, forcing himself to speak. "No, miss, there's a convoy approaching, about 6 miles out." "A convoy?" Sylvia's eyes flew open. Liam narrowed his, retracting his foot. "Yes, miss. It looks like the convoy is heading for us. They should be here in about 10 minutes, the guard reported urgently. Sylvia shot up and instinctively glanced at Liam. "Your people?" Liam shrugged, adopting a lazy, resigned posture. "Do you think I have any way of contacting anyone?" He deliberately shook the chains wrapped around him. The clanking sound echoed in the living room. Sylvia froze. He was right. Every move Liam made was under her surveillance. How could he have possibly done anything? "Then it must have been before you arrived," she said, her eyes narrowing with conviction. Honestly, Liam didn't know if the convoy was from the royal family, but based on the timing and the guard's report, it was highly likely. But if Sylvia found out he had notified someone beforehand, who knew what this crazy woman would do? Liam's lips curved into a smile. "Sylvia, do you hear yourself? I was blindfolded by your people when I came here. How could I possibly know where they were taking me?" He was indeed a skilled debater. After a few sentences, Sylvia couldn't find any flaw in his logic. But those people wouldn't be coming here for no reason. The only possibility was that Liam had notified them in advance. She stood up, brushed the footprint off her clothes, and sneered. "Whether you notified them or not, don't think for a second that I would dare to kidnap you without a backup plan." She turned and commanded her men, "Get Liam and Chloe into the car. Take the back roads. Move out." "Yes, ma'am." The guard acknowledged the order and gestured for the other bodyguards to come in and carry Chloe. As they approached him, Liam's eyes darkened. He had already tested the chains. They were loose. With enough force, he could break free. But Chloe was still in their hands. His gaze fell on the pale-faced Chloe being carried away. He tightened his grip on the chains and chose not to struggle. His obedient demeanor didn't look like someone who had called for backup. With no time to waste, Sylvia scanned the room and ordered, "Go get the box from the drawer of my dressing table. Leave everything else." "Yes, ma'am." The entire group piled into cars and sped away from the villa's back entrance. Not long after they left, Graves arrived with a large convoy of vehicles in the villa's courtyard. After searching the entire villa, Graves stared at the body of Penelope Hamilton being carried out and immediately reported to Lord Charles. "What? Penelope Hamilton is dead." Charles was stunned, then immediately became tense. He yelled into the phone, "Where's Liam?" Graves quickly replied, "Liam wasn't at the scene. We found fresh tire tracks at the back gate of the villa. They must have escaped through the back before we arrived. Pursue them," Charles ordered without hesitation. At the royal residence, Natalie watched her panicked father with confusion. "Father, why are you so worried? This could just be a show Liam put on with someone else to kill Ethan's good friend." Her voice was so loud it almost made Charles drop his phone. Regaining his composure, he roared, "Shut up. Liam would never kill anyone." "Father." Natalie's eyes widened in disbelief. Her father had only met Liam once, and he trusted him this much? She shouted in shock, "Father, don't be fooled by that boy. His file says he's an expert fighter. Now a body has been found where he was last seen. He has to be a suspect." Natalie didn't understand how her usually meticulous father could be so biased toward the young man he had just met in such a serious matter. But her words had no effect, only fueling Charles's anger. "Get out. Father, out." Facing her father's impending rage, Natalie had no choice but to swallow her pride. She bit her lip and finally left. Once Natalie was gone, Charles frowned and spoke into the phone again. "This matter must be kept secret. Seal off the scene. Don't let a single fly in." Back in her room, Natalie looked at Ethan silently and then spoke slowly. Ethan, be honest with me. What was your relationship with that Penelope Hamilton? Ethan tensed and quickly looked up. She was my benefactor. We only had a financial relationship, nothing more. Natalie's eyes widened. Then in that viral video, why were you defending her at every turn? Because Ethan was about to make up an excuse, but seeing his mother's serious expression, he knew this was more complicated than he thought. He said gravely, Mom, why are you asking this? Never mind why. Just tell me. Natalie stared at Ethan, her tone firm. After a long silence, Ethan finally spoke. Because of Riley Thorne. Riley Thorne. Natalie paused, then said instinctively, the girl standing with Liam in the video? Ethan nodded silently. Natalie understood instantly. I see. Her son, Ethan, was in love with that girl, Riley Thorne. But Riley liked Liam. That's why Ethan had stood with Penelope against Liam. Riley Thorne was the daughter of the Thorne family. The Thornes were a top-tier family in their country, with immense power and wealth. And with their country's influence growing daily, they were a force to be reckoned with. No wonder her father was siding with Liam. The royal family had extensive business dealings with the Thornes. A connection through marriage would be ideal. It all clicked into place. Seeing his mother's knowing expression, Ethan couldn't suppress his curiosity. Mom, what happened? Natalie looked deeply at her son and sighed. Penelope Hamilton is dead. She's dead. Ethan's eyes flew open. Yes. Natalie nodded, but a smile appeared on her face. But, Ethan, you don't have to worry. Liam was at the scene of Penelope's death. You like that Riley Thorne, don't you? If she finds out Liam is a murderer, she'll definitely come back to you. If nothing else, after watching the video, Natalie, though biased toward her son, knew that Penelope Hamilton was no saint. Her death now was perfect timing. It created an opportunity. Ethan seemed to understand, but not completely. He looked at Natalie, confused. Mother, you mean? We blow this up? Let everyone know that Liam is a murderer. That Riley Thorne girl likes Liam, right? If she finds out the man she loves is a killer, she'll be heartbroken. That's when you swoop in and offer her a shoulder to cry on. I'll talk to your father about arranging a marriage between you and the Thorne family. As the old saying goes, everything will just fall into place, won't it? Natalie said with a small smile. Thanks to her husband, she had developed a habit of reading books on strategy over the years. She never thought it would actually come in handy. Her father was clearly determined to protect Liam now. She didn't know why, but she would not allow it. Ethan's eyes lit up with understanding, and he looked at his mother with admiration. It's time for your friends to be useful. We'll use the momentum from that video. Liam and Penelope were enemies, right? We'll blow this whole thing wide open. I understand. I'll get on it right away, Ethan said, nodding as he quickly pulled out his phone. Stanton Estate. Miss, it's getting dark. Didn't Mr. Lynn say he wouldn't be back today? You should get some rest, Evelyn said anxiously, looking at Cassandra, who had been sitting on the living room sofa, reading for hours. Beside her, Haley and Riley, who was hugging a large teddy bear, were also full of worry. Since noon, Cassandra hadn't moved from the sofa. She had barely touched her lunch and hadn't taken a single bite of dinner. A pregnant woman couldn't endure that kind of hunger, but all they could do was plead. Cassandra looked up from her book, her gaze drifting to the darkening sky outside. Under the hopeful stares of the three women, she closed her book. I'm going to my bedroom. As if a pardon had been granted, all three of them sighed in relief. As she stood up, Cassandra's gaze swept over to Evelyn. Evelyn, come help me make the bed. Evelyn nodded quickly. In a corner where Cassandra couldn't see, she waved at Haley and Riley before following Cassandra into the room. Phew. Seeing her sister go into the bedroom, Riley let out a breath of relief and smiled. Well, Haley, I'm going to bed too. I'm exhausted from watching her all day. She hugged her bear with one arm and massaged her lower back with the other. Haley nodded, but her gaze remained fixed on the closed bedroom door, her brow furrowed with worry. Bedroom. As Evelyn busily made the bed, Cassandra, sitting on the sofa, spoke nonchalantly. Evelyn, I have a question for you. Evelyn, still bent over, continued her work while quickly replying, Miss, just ask whatever you want. She didn't notice the eyes watching her from behind, slowly turning cold. Evelyn, tell me, how can a creature like a backstabber exist in this world? Her sudden question caught Evelyn completely off guard. Her hands froze. Evelyn quickly turned around. When she met Cassandra's icy gaze, her heart skipped a beat. She forced a smile. Miss, there are so many people in this world, all kinds of creatures. If one were missing, it wouldn't be a complete world, would it? Is that so? Cassandra asked coldly, her eyes turning dark and sharp, just like they used to be. Just meeting that sharp gaze made Evelyn's knees go weak, nearly causing her to fall to the floor. Since Liam had appeared, she hadn't seen her miss with this expression. In the past, when Cassandra's face darkened, she knew someone was finished. But now, she subconsciously scratched her hair and smiled weakly. Miss, the bed is made. If there's nothing else, I'll just... She didn't get to finish. Not because she was interrupted. Cassandra said nothing. She just sat there calmly on the sofa, but her eyes were like a swamp, dark and deep enough to swallow Evelyn whole. And Miss, Evelyn was so nervous she could barely speak, managing only those two words. Cassandra's lips suddenly curved into a smile, as if she were looking at a dead person. Her voice was ice. I never knew I had one of those creatures right here beside me. The words were clearly loaded. Who was she talking about? Someone close to her. The first person who came to mind was Liam. But Liam wasn't here. And if it were Liam, why would she be looking at her with such a sharp gaze? She forced herself to stand still and continued her weak smile. Miss, are you talking about Mr. Lynn? Didn't Mr. Thorne say? She still didn't finish. Cassandra's gaze, which seemed to see through everything, was fixed on her, making her heart race. Could she be talking about? The moment she realized, Evelyn felt the hair on her body stand on end. As if doused with a bucket of cold water, she fell to her knees with a thud, the immense pressure too much to bear. She no longer dared to look up, her voice trembling. Miss, you've misunderstood. I would rather die than betray you. We grew up together. You should know me best. Other than slacking off sometimes, I have no ulterior motives. If she had stood her ground, Cassandra might not have suspected her. But Evelyn panicked. A simple test, and she panicked. The more she panicked, the more it proved something was wrong. Cassandra narrowed her eyes and sneered. Is that so? It's the absolute truth. Evelyn quickly raised 4 fingers and swore to the heavens. But the oath had no effect. Cassandra's face remained icy cold. Staring at Evelyn, she spoke softly. Then let me ask you, why did you lie to me about my pregnancy? Miss, with your emotional state at the time, Haley, Riley, and I were just afraid something would happen to you. So we made up a lie. We never expected Mr. Lynn was still alive. Evelyn explained instinctively, without thinking. The next second, Cassandra's voice came again, like a rapid-fire interrogation. Then let me ask you, where is Liam? I don't know. Evelyn's face was flushed red. Under such intense pressure, she had completely lost the ability to think. So, she really didn't know. Cassandra narrowed her eyes and continued. Then what about Chloe and Leo? Why didn't they come back today? Because Chloe went missing, and Leo said he was going to look for her. The word slipped out. In the middle of her sentence, a chill ran down Evelyn's spine. Meeting Cassandra's eyes, she instantly understood. Her miss was tricking her. Before she could process it, Cassandra's voice came again. Very good. It seems you really are hiding something from me. It was too late to realize she'd been played. Evelyn took a deep breath. The only person who could make her stumble like this was Cassandra. At this point, she had no choice but to confess. Miss, you're pregnant now. You can't handle this kind of news. As for Chloe going missing, I think she probably just went out with Leo. Cassandra said nothing, just stared at Evelyn, her eyes seeming to say, do you actually believe it yourself? Evelyn knew the explanation was ridiculous. She shut her mouth. After a long silence, Cassandra spoke. You can get up. Yes. Evelyn nodded, knowing she had passed her Mrs. Test. She stood silently before Cassandra, her head bowed low. The atmosphere in the bedroom dropped to freezing. When did it happen? Cassandra's voice suddenly broke the silence. Just after noon, around 2 in the afternoon. Haley went to pick them up, but Chloe and Leo weren't there. Which means Liam has been missing since 2 p.m. This wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact from Cassandra. Given Cassandra's pregnancy, any emotional turmoil would be extremely bad for her. Evelyn quickly said, Mr. Lynn isn't missing. Didn't Mr. Thorne say he sent him on a business trip? Cassandra shot her a look, her voice cold. And you believe that? My father and Liam are thick as thieves now. In my current state, of course he would cover for Liam. Well, that was true. There was no refuting it. Evelyn fell silent. Cassandra's voice was icy as she gave an order. Go investigate privately. See if you can find any trace of Liam. Evelyn, who had just managed to calm herself down, quickly said, Miss, with your condition, you shouldn't worry about this. You can't have any major emotional fluctuations. Do you think I'm an idiot? Cassandra snapped. You think I don't know that? Then, since my father already knows, he must be helping behind the scenes. So I don't need to waste my energy. And you all don't need to hide everything from me. Cassandra had wanted to say this for a long time. She hated it when people used the excuse of it's for your own good to lie to her. As her words fell, Evelyn's eyes widened. Cassandra's voice continued. And Evelyn, have you ever thought, what if Liam had never shown up? On the day that this long-suppressed pregnancy lie finally had to be revealed, how angry do you think I would have been? Emotions that are suppressed don't disappear. They only result in a more violent explosion. Especially in a hopeless situation, the great joy of a pregnancy, once exposed as a lie, would have plunged her life into an abyss of despair. She knew that Liam had probably told her father about Chloe's disappearance, and they were likely hiding it from her for her own good. She understood their protection, but she didn't need it. She was never a delicate flower in a greenhouse that needed protecting. Instead of hiding it, it was better to tell her so they could figure out a solution together. Listening to Cassandra, Evelyn was stunned. She suddenly remembered that this was what her miss was like before Liam. She never needed anyone's protection. It had been a long time since she had seen this fierce side of her. It only came out when Liam wasn't around. But her miss said one thing. "Miss, what if the investigation doesn't find out when Mr. Liam will be back?" "I trust him," Cassandra said without a moment's hesitation, her voice firm. "Since he dared to go alone, he must have arranged a way out. What I need to do is protect myself and wait for him to come back safely." Evelyn was simply shocked. She had always thought her miss was a lovesick fool. When she was with Liam, she always seemed to lose her reason inexplicably. For so long, she had almost forgotten what her miss was like when she wasn't blinded by love. If that was the case, then she had to be clearer. "But last time, Mr. Liam didn't come back for you." It was undeniable. Hearing that, a flicker of pain crossed Cassandra's face, but she quickly recovered. "That was before. We had a lot of misunderstandings, but we've resolved them. Evelyn, you should be able to see it clearly, right? He loves me, and I love him. And since we love each other, I have to trust him." It was like a lesson. The sweet memories of their time together flooded Evelyn's mind. She took a deep breath and nodded firmly. "Yes, miss. I understand. Good that you understand. Go investigate. Don't worry about me. I know when to be angry and when not to be." As she spoke, Cassandra glanced at the coffee table and rubbed the bridge of her nose tiredly. "Go heat up dinner and bring it here. After all this time, I'm hungry too." "Yes." Hearing that her miss wanted to eat, Evelyn felt a jolt of energy and rushed out to give the orders. Watching Evelyn leave, Cassandra's slightly relaxed posture tensed up again. Her face turned cold and sharp as she stared out at the dark sky. Not nervous? Trust him. That was all a lie. The person she loved most was missing. How could she not be nervous? Liam had gone alone, without a single soldier. The thought made her nose tingle, and her eyes reddened. Realizing tears were about to fall, she squeezed her eyes shut. She didn't know when she had become such a crybaby. It was all Liam's fault. If he came back safely, she would definitely give him a beating to vent her frustration. Realizing her own sappy transformation, Cassandra pressed her lips together, but a hopeful thought emerged. "Liam, this time you better not let me down." "Ma'am, they're still behind us. I think they're coming for us," the man in the black suit said, his face tense as he stared at the laptop screen inside the cargo truck. Liam glanced around the cavernous, metallic interior and frowned. Had the Shaw family really fallen this far? Reduced to using beat-up freight trucks? Still, he had to admit, the vehicle offered excellent cover. Once the door was closed, no one would know who was inside. "You brought them here," Sylvia Shaw said, her voice sharp. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Liam just shrugged. His silence was a confession. Sylvia's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. "So, that means the bitch following us is Cassandra Thorne, doesn't it?" Liam's brow furrowed in annoyance. "Watch your mouth." The fact that he defended her was all it took. Sylvia exploded. "Why should I? She's a bitch. Liam, don't even think about lying to me." She was like a gas canister, ready to detonate at the mere mention of Cassandra's name. Liam decided it was best not to provoke her. If she went completely insane and decided to take them all down with her, it would be a total waste. Cassandra and the baby were waiting for him at home. He had to get back safely. His gaze darkened as he told her the truth. "I honestly don't know who's following us. But Sylvia, someone was tailing me before I came here. I didn't have a chance to investigate before I got Penelope Hamilton's call." Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, Sylvia's expression shifted to a frown. "Tailing you?" "Yes," Liam nodded. "I was going to look into it, but Penelope's call came too fast. I didn't have time. The people behind us now are probably the same ones." Sylvia stared at him, trying to discern if he was lying. They were in the UK. The Thorne family's reach wasn't infinite. It would take time for them to track him here. That meant Liam was probably telling the truth. It was someone else. She bit her lip. "Did you make an enemy?" Her tone was a strange mix of probing and genuine curiosity, her expression unreadable. Liam couldn't be bothered to guess. He shook his head. "I have no idea. You've seen my life. I go to class, I study. That's it. If I have an enemy, I can't imagine who it would be. This was a rare moment of unguarded honesty from him, and Sylvia seemed to believe it. She let her guard down, thinking for a moment. Then it must be because of that video from the other day. The guy who was defending Penelope Hamilton. What was his name? Ethan. Right, Sylvia nodded. It's probably him. The pieces clicked into place. They hadn't taken Penelope's body with them when they fled, so it must have been discovered. Yet the people behind them were still in hot pursuit. That meant the pursuer had to be Ethan. As Sylvia fell silent, lost in thought, Liam narrowed his eyes. He had a different theory. It had to be the royal family. The Thorns didn't know anything about this, so they couldn't be involved. He wants revenge on you, Sylvia said suddenly, startling Liam from his thoughts. He looked at her, surprised. A slight smile touched Sylvia's lips. She turned to the man in the black suit. Tell them to stop the truck. What? The man froze. But ma'am, they're only 8 kilometers behind us. If we stop, they'll be on us in 5 minutes. Stop wasting my time. I told you to stop the truck. Sylvia snapped. I want them to catch up. Anyone who makes an enemy of Liam makes an enemy of me. Do you not understand English? No, ma'am. Of course not. The man scrambled for his phone and sent a message to the driver. The truck screeched to a halt. Liam was stunned by her words. He stared at her. Are you planning to? They serve themselves up on a platter. So we'll eliminate them, Sylvia said without hesitation. She stood up and issued her commands. Get everyone out. Set up an ambush in the surrounding area. As for Liam, her gaze fell on him. They're looking for you. I'll take care of them for you, but of course, you'll have to help. Liam froze, his eyes darting to the now open cargo door. He understood immediately and was shocked. You're going to use me as bait? That's why I like you. You're so smart, Sylvia smiled. She pulled a towel from her pocket, grabbed his jaw, and forced his mouth open. A second later, the towel was stuffed inside, the ends wrapped around his head and tied in a tight knot. With that, she and her men jumped out of the truck. Staring out the open door, the only light source, Liam saw they were surrounded by a dense forest. He had no idea where this was. He couldn't believe Sylvia had actually stopped the truck. It meant the other truck, the one following them, had to be loaded with weapons. As a normal person, Liam rarely encountered this kind of situation. Besides the first time he'd met Cassandra and seen the exquisite golden pistol in her hand, he'd hardly ever been around firearms. Now a full-blown firefight was about to erupt right in front of him. He glanced instinctively at Chloe, who was lying pale and unconscious on a blanket ever since the whipping. Liam struggled against his bonds. Thankfully, Sylvia had untied the chain from his ankles and hadn't had time to resecure it. With a few more twists, he could break free. The seconds ticked by. While they set up their ambush outside, Liam sat on the chair, wrestling with the chain. Finally, just as the piercing sound of a car horn cut through the air, Liam broke the chain free. That's the tire track. It's this truck, a man yelled after getting out of his vehicle. The lead investigator confirmed it with a single glance. Aled narrowed his eyes. His gut told him something was wrong. Why was this truck just sitting here? He scanned the area and immediately gave an order. You 3, secure the perimeter. You with me? Yes, sir. The team of 6 split up. Aled and 2 others moved past the rear of the second truck. As he rounded the corner, he saw Liam in the open cargo bay, kneeling beside Chloe, who was lying motionless on the floor. Seeing the scene and remembering the dead body they'd found earlier, Aled immediately raised his pistol and aimed it at Liam. Don't move! Liam froze. He recognized the men as the ones who had been tailing him. He shouted, Get out of here! Given that a murder had already occurred, and with an unconscious woman at Liam's feet, Aled was on high alert. He kept his gun trained on Liam. Don't move. Put your hands in the air. Liam couldn't believe it. You idiot. It's an ambush. Before he could finish, a metallic clink echoed through the trees. Aled's instinct screamed at him, and he spun around. At the same time, a voice from behind him shrieked, Grenade. The words had barely left his mouth when a massive explosion ripped through the clearing. The scene descended into chaos. Aled reacted instantly, diving behind the front of the truck for cover. Liam was stunned. Did Sylvia bring her entire arsenal? She even has bombs. Is she trying to take everyone down with her? Snapping back to reality, Liam yelled at Aled. Don't hide there. They have a clear shot. Get up here. The surrounding forest was a perfect ambush site. Hearing the shout, Aled glanced at Liam, then gritted his teeth and scrambled into the truck. He was fast, but the men behind him weren't so lucky. Sylvia's team opened fire. 3 were hit by the blast, and 2 were shot. Seeing his men dead and wounded, Aled flew into a rage. He grabbed Liam by the collar. You bastard. We came to rescue you, and you set us up to be murdered? Are you a fucking idiot? Liam cursed. Didn't your monarch tell you I was here to save Chloe? The woman lying next to me is P12.She. P12.She. Aled paused, looking down at the woman at Liam's feet. After a moment, he let go. The monarch only said the mission was confidential and to bring you back safely. He didn't mention anything else. Liam couldn't believe Lord Charles was such a half-wit, giving incomplete orders. As the noise outside began to die down, he asked urgently, "Do you have any other weapons besides that pistol?" Aled shook his head. It was a confidential mission. I wasn't planning on making a big scene. This was the closest he'd ever been to escaping. But Liam knew the reality of the situation. Chloe was injured and unconscious. Sylvia's men were armed to the teeth. There was no way he and Aled could fight their way out of this encirclement alone. This was going to be difficult. Seeing Liam stroking his chin in thought, Aled patted his pockets and then slapped his forehead. "All right, I have a smoke bomb." Liam's head shot up. He smacked Aled on the arm. "Why didn't you say so sooner?" he urged. "Quick, throw it out. I'll hold them off while you get Chloe out of here. It's dark, they won't notice you. And you? My orders are to bring you back. I don't care if this woman lives or dies." The usually calm Liam was completely set off by Aled's words. "Are you really that stupid? If she's safe, I'll find a way to escape." Aled stared, stunned. Hearing footsteps in the undergrowth, he knew there was no time to argue. "Fine, I'll go. Once I'm clear, I'll call for reinforcements." "Stop wasting time and go." Liam snapped, scooping Chloe into his arms and shoving her into Aled's. As the smoke billowed, Aled leaped from the truck and vanished into the haze. "Cough, cough. Get in the truck. What are you standing around for? If Liam escapes, you can forget about getting paid." Sylvia's voice cut through the smoke. Liam thought for a moment, then called out, "Sylvia, are you insane? You even brought bombs?" Hearing his voice, Sylvia's tense heart finally settled. She scanned the area and ordered her men, "Spread out and check the area. Get ready to move." With her command given, she rushed into the thinning smoke and climbed into the truck. The cargo bay was still thick with the acrid smoke, trapped with no way to vent. It would take minutes to clear. Fearing Liam had escaped, Sylvia aimed her flashlight into the interior. "Liam, where are you?" "Cough, cough." Liam poked his head out from behind a crate, faking a series of harsh coughs. "You have a nerve to ask? I almost choked to death on your damn smoke bomb." Seeing he was still there, Sylvia quickly reached toward the sound of his voice. After a moment of fumbling, she grabbed his arm, her eyes full of apology. "Sorry, I don't know who threw that. Let's get out of here. We're switching vehicles. Where are we going to find another car out here?" Liam said, playing for time. "Don't worry, I came prepared," she said, forcefully pulling him by the arm toward the back of the truck. Liam stumbled as he followed her down. His vision finally cleared. Looking past the crowd, he saw no sign of Aled. The police car behind them had been blown to smithereens, its frame still engulfed in flames. Before he could get his bearings, Sylvia grabbed his arm and dragged him toward the back. Only then did Liam see it. Inside the larger freight truck was a smaller SUV. How many backup plans did she have? He was floored, but he didn't see Aled anywhere. He must have gotten away. Staring at the men bustling around, Liam narrowed his eyes. Just as Sylvia was anxiously unlocking the SUV, he made his move. Without hesitation, he wrapped his arm around her neck. "Don't move," he said softly, his voice calm and quiet right beside her ear. Sylvia's entire body went rigid. She finally realized the chains on Liam were gone. Two of his fingers were pressed against her throat, holding her life in his hands. Her fate rested entirely on whether he decided to apply pressure. "What are you doing? Aren't you afraid I'll have my men kill P12.She?" Sylvia's cold voice rang out. As she was taken hostage, her men instantly froze. But before Liam could answer, Sylvia's mind caught up. If he could break free from the chains, he could have threatened her at any point. The fact that he was only doing it now meant that Chloe was already. "Looks like you're not as dumb as you act," Liam sneered. He tightened his grip on her neck and dragged her toward the dark corner behind the vehicle, using her as a shield. He watched her men warily. Around them, the fire raged. The exploding car had ignited the dry woods, and the flames were spreading. If they weren't contained, this could easily become a massive forest fire. Back home, something like this would be detected and dealt with immediately. But this was the UK, a sparsely populated country, especially in the middle of the night. Even if a fire did start, it would be a while before anyone noticed. It was possible no one would find out until Aled managed to call for help. Yet, even in this dire situation, Sylvia showed no fear. She lowered her head and let out a cold laugh. "Just as I'd expect from the man I chose. You were waiting for this moment, weren't you?" Liam didn't answer, which was a tacit admission. Of course I was. What was I supposed to wait for? Death? Chloe was safe. Did she really think she could still hold him hostage? What a joke. Seeing her men shifting restlessly, Liam tightened his fingers and commanded coldly, "Give me the car keys." The car keys. Sylvia looked at the one remaining vehicle, the small SUV, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You're planning to drive away?" she gasped. "You'd leave me here to die and take the only car? Don't try to guilt-trip me." Liam squeezed harder, leaving red marks on her throat. His voice was glacial, devoid of any emotion. "The moment you laid a hand on Chloe, we became enemies. Why should I care if you live or die?" What a joke. The person who had threatened him was now demanding he save her life? Was Sylvia out of her mind? "Guilt-trip you." Sylvia repeated the words, her face illuminated by the growing fire. She let out a heart-wrenching scream. "You say I'm guilt-tripping you? Liam, don't forget, I stopped the truck for you. I got rid of your enemies for you, and now you accuse me of guilt-tripping you. Did I ask for your help?" Liam shot back, grabbing her jaw with his free hand, nearly choking the life out of her. A powerful sense of suffocation washed over Sylvia. She didn't even seem to want to resist. Her face turned crimson, blood rushing to her head. In just a few seconds, she could barely breathe. Just as her vision started to blur, Liam suddenly released his grip. "Cough! Cough!" Sylvia gasped for air. As her senses returned, she looked at him, confused. "Why didn't you kill me?" "Kill you?" Liam looked at her mockingly. "Wouldn't that just give you what you want?" It was blunt, but it was the truth. In that near-death moment, Sylvia had genuinely thought that dying at Liam's hands would be worth it. But now she was alive. Their story wasn't going to end that easily. Seeing the flames spreading, Liam's gaze hardened. He repeated his demand. "Give me the keys." "Never." Sylvia shot back, grabbing his arm. "Either you kill me today, or we burn to death together. You're not going back to that bitch." Crack! A sharp slap echoed through the clearing. Liam never hit women, but this time, he couldn't stop himself. What had he done to deserve being loved by a woman like this? It was worse luck than stepping in dog shit. Sylvia clutched her cheek in disbelief, the pain in her heart eclipsing the stinging on her face. She couldn't accept it. Liam had actually hit her. He had slapped her. All she wanted was to be with the man she loved. What had she done wrong? Didn't everything she had sacrificed deserve at least a single glance from him? Staring at her, Liam's eyes were filled with disgust. "Sylvia, look at what you've become. I told you before I don't like you. Not in this life, not in the next. You've thrown away everything for this obsession. You keep saying you did it all for me, but did you ever once ask my opinion? Did I ask you to do any of this?" His voice echoed in her ears, mingling with the crackling of burning branches. Sylvia couldn't hear anything anymore. It felt like her left ear had gone deaf. She stared blankly at Liam, only seeing his lips move. "Hurry up. Give me the keys." The fire was getting bigger. Liam was getting anxious. He didn't care if she had hurt him or not. "You still have another truck. Get away from here. I'll call for help. We can still put this fire out." Give them to him, so he can rush back to Cassandra? Blood trickled from the corner of Sylvia's mouth. The clear handprint on her left cheek was swollen and red. In the light of the raging fire, her face twisted into a grotesque mask. "Never. You will never go back to Cassandra Thorne," she shrieked like a madwoman. "If I die, I'll become a vengeful ghost and haunt Cassandra Thorne and your child for all eternity." Mentioning Cassandra was one thing, but the words, "your child," made Liam freeze. His heart stopped. "You know she's pregnant?" His question acted like a sedative, instantly restoring Sylvia's sanity. "Of course I know." She laughed, a triumphant glimmer in her eyes. She had found her leverage again. "Not only do I know she's pregnant, I also know she's staying at the Stanton estate, resting up. Right? Liam, I brought bombs. Do you really think I didn't have a backup plan?" Liam hadn't been this frantic even when he heard Chloe had been kidnapped. But now, she was threatening Cassandra. He couldn't stand it. He grabbed her by the throat again, snarling, "If you dare harm them, I will kill you with my own 2 hands." He was clearly losing his cool now, completely forgetting he was dealing with a lunatic. "Kill me? Go ahead." Sylvia met his gaze without flinching. The hand tightening around her throat didn't scare her in the slightest. She just smiled a wide, unsettling grin. "Kill me then. I've already told you. I'm willing to die by your hand." Staring at her face, so calm, so ready to accept her fate, Liam fell silent. Until he could contact Cassandra, he couldn't take the risk, even if Sylvia was bluffing. He finally let go. As Sylvia coughed, his silent eyes reflected the growing inferno. "Just drive. Let's hope someone finds us before we burn alive." It was clear. He had surrendered. After a fit of coughing, Sylvia rubbed her sore throat and commanded her men in a hoarse voice. "What are you standing around for? Get in the truck. We're heading into the mountains." Back at the royal residence, Lord Charles was pacing anxiously when he finally got the call from Aled. The moment the line connected, Aled coughed several times, his hand gripping the steering wheel, his voice raspy. "Your Majesty," Liam said. He was the one who was kidnapped. Aled glanced at Chloe, desperate to confirm Liam's story. Lord Charles frowned, assuming Liam was right beside Aled. "Put him on the phone. I have something to tell him." Unable to get a straight answer, Aled reported the facts. "No, Your Majesty. The people who kidnapped Liam set a car on fire. It started a forest fire in the Morning Hills." "A forest fire?" Charles slammed his hand on the table and shot to his feet. "And Liam? Did you get Liam out?" "My team was ambushed when we pursued. Liam told me to get P12.She out first." "So he's still in the mountains?" Charles was aghast, his anger flaring. "How did you handle this? Didn't I order you to get Liam out at all costs?" I didn't expect the kidnappers to be armed," Aled said on the verge of tears. He never imagined they would be so ruthless, so prepared. It was a covert operation. He hadn't brought many men, and the ones he had brought were now all dead or wounded. Hearing this, Charles calmed down. It was true. When Caleb Thorne had called him, he too had assumed they were just ordinary kidnappers. The only one to blame was Caleb for not being clear. He immediately gave a new order. "Bring that woman, P12.She, back here. Don't worry about anything else." "Yes, sir," Aled replied. After hanging up, Charles swiftly mobilized a royal detachment to the Morning Hills. At the same time, he dialed Caleb Thorne. Caleb, who had been waiting by the phone, answered instantly, only to be met with Charles's accusation. "Caleb Thorne, you did not handle this honorably." Caleb was taken aback. "Your Majesty, what do you mean by that? The people who kidnapped Liam were carrying bombs and other weapons. They've started a forest fire in the Morning Hills. Why didn't you tell me this before?" If he had known earlier, he could have been better prepared. Now, Liam was still missing, and a mountain was on fire. It would take them at least an hour to get there at top speed, and in an hour, the fire could spread uncontrollably. Bombs. Caleb was stunned. He was familiar with the word, but in this day and age, such things were not common. Realizing Liam had gone in alone, Caleb's anxiety spiked. "What about Liam? Is he safe? If he were safe, do you think I'd be calling you?" Charles fumed, his mustache bristling. In comparison, Caleb remained relatively calm. He narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice, "Have you identified his kidnappers?" "If you mean the owner of that villa, then yes, we have." Charles took a deep breath, knowing now was not the time for blame. His voice leveled. "Sylvia Shaw. The villa is registered in her name." The Shaw family?" Caleb was stunned again. He knew better than anyone that after Liam's faked death, his daughter Cassandra had dismantled the Shaw family's empire, cutting their annual revenue by more than half. But Cassandra, remembering their kindness to Liam, had spared their lives. Still, for a pharmaceutical dynasty like the Shaws, even a dismantled one, their financial power was still considerable. To use so many weapons just to kidnap Liam. It seemed the Shaw family had gone all in this time. Hearing Caleb's silence, Charles understood. He didn't say anything more, only adding coldly, "I don't care about the dispute between you and the Shaws, but I want you to pressure them to release Liam." "I know what to do." Caleb nodded, now completely composed. "The priority is to rescue Liam. I will pressure the Shaws. We'll work separately." "Good." Hanging up, Caleb immediately dialed the number for Sylvia's parents. After a few rings, Simon Shaw's voice came through. "Mr. Thorne, why are you calling so late?" From the sound of it, Simon had been woken from a deep sleep. Caleb paused. Was it possible that Sylvia had caused all this chaos without her parents' knowledge? There was no time for formalities. Caleb got straight to the point. "Simon, where's your daughter, Sylvia?" "Sylvia?" Simon sounded confused, then chuckled. "She said she was feeling down and needed to get away for a while. She's probably traveling somewhere." Hearing Simon's gentle voice, Caleb realized they had no idea what their daughter had done. After a moment of silence from Caleb, Simon grew concerned. "Mr. Thorne, what's wrong? Why are you looking for my daughter at this hour?" "Simon," Caleb sighed, laying it all out. "Your daughter, armed with weapons and bombs, kidnapped my son-in-law. She's on the run in the Morning Hills in the UK, where she has started a forest fire." "What?" Simon froze, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. "Mr. Thorne, what did you just say? Do I need to repeat myself?" "The British Royal Forces have been deployed. Your daughter has nowhere left to run." Thump! Simon's hand trembled, and the phone fell onto the bedsheets. He snatched it back up, his voice filled with disbelief. "Impossible. Sylvia has moved on. How could she?" "It seems you don't know your own daughter as well as you think," Caleb sighed. If Simon had known from the start, Caleb would have been furious. But now, as a fellow parent, He couldn't bring himself to be angry at Simon for being deceived by his own child. Simon, you and your wife need to contact Sylvia immediately. Tell her to stop this nonsense before it's too late. Okay, I'll call her right now. Simon agreed, quickly hanging up to dial Sylvia's number. In the morning hills, two vehicles were driving toward the summit. In the back seat, Liam stared out the window, his head down, his expression dark as he brooded. Sylvia sat with her arms crossed, her sharp gaze fixed on him. This time, she hadn't bothered to chain him up. She had found his weakness, and now that she had, there was no need to restrain him. The silence in the SUV was heavy. No one spoke. Suddenly, a phone rang, shattering the quiet. Liam instinctively glanced at Sylvia. He watched as she took out her phone, looked at the screen, and then angrily hung up. Why not answer? Did her backup plan fall through? Liam taunted, probing for information. As if. Sylvia sneered. Just an unimportant call. Why would I answer? Really? Liam narrowed his eyes, his face a mask of disbelief. If it was so unimportant, why did you get so angry? To his surprise, Sylvia seemed almost pleased. She turned to him and asked eagerly, "You could tell I was angry?" Liam was speechless. He truly didn't know what to say. Once a person becomes consumed by their own delusions, reality fades further and further away. The phone rang again. Liam's peripheral vision caught the name on her screen, Dad. He understood instantly. As Sylvia moved to hang up again, he said, "Go on, answer it. You won't even take a call from your own father." "What's there to answer?" Sylvia snapped, frustratedly turning her phone off completely. Watching this, Liam said coolly, "Don't tell me, Sylvia. You're doing all this behind your parents' back, aren't you?" It had the same effect as saying Cassandra's name. Sylvia's face shifted from calm to furious. "It's all for you. As long as I can have you, I'm willing to pay any price." She had completely lost her mind. Liam's expression darkened. He remembered Sylvia's parents from a fragment of his recovered memories. They were gentle people. He'd been young then, and the details were hazy, but he recalled the time he had a fever, burning up, and it was Sylvia's mother, Wendy, who had stayed by his side all night. Thinking of their age, they should be enjoying a time of family and happiness with their children married. But now, as much as Liam despised Sylvia, he knew her family was good. At least, in his memory, they had never harmed him. In fact, he owed them a debt of gratitude. He looked at Sylvia's face, twisted by her obsession, and fell silent for a long time. "Sylvia," he said suddenly, in the quiet car. His voice was startlingly loud. Sylvia turned her head, her cold face betraying no emotion. Liam frowned, his voice low. "It might not be too late for you to stop." As if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world, Sylvia's face contorted. "Too late?" she sneered, counting on her fingers. "Murder, arson, kidnapping. Liam, don't play dumb with me. You know exactly what I've done, and you're telling me it's not too late. So you do know." Liam raised an eyebrow, his feelings a complicated mess. That phone call from her father had suddenly blunted the edge of his hatred. He felt sorry for her parents. Sylvia had brought all of this on herself. Chloe had been kidnapped twice and whipped. Cassandra and the baby had been threatened. And through it all, her parents were completely in the dark, about to be dragged through the mud for their daughter's crimes. Hatred and pity warred within him. He turned to look out the window, his voice flat. "You knew, and you did it anyway. You've gone insane." "Yes, I am insane. I went insane the day I fell in love with you." It was a roar, a howl, as if her father's call had triggered all the guilt buried deep inside her. She screamed at him, completely losing her composure. Liam turned back to her calmly, his gaze steady on her twisted face. "I'll say it again. Your feelings for me have nothing to do with me. I never asked you to love me. Look at yourself now, lying to your parents, doing all these things. You keep telling me to kill you. Have you ever thought about how heartbroken your parents would be if you died? They raised you all these years just to watch you walk to your death. And now they have to clean up your mess at their age? Aren't you ashamed?" By the time he finished, tears were streaming down Sylvia's face. Her eyes were red and swollen, but she remained stubborn. "You think I wanted this? I can't have you. The thought of you with another woman drives me mad with jealousy. I was the one who pursued you for so long. We were the perfect match. I was the one who grew up with you. Why does she, Cassandra Thorne, get to come in and take my place? So, you just threw everything away? Sylvia, what's the difference between you now and Penelope Hamilton, the woman you killed?" Liam's voice boomed. Sylvia froze. She stared at him, unable to believe those words came from his mouth. Suddenly, she started to laugh. "Ha ha ha." Liam frowned. "What are you laughing at?" "I'm laughing at you, Liam. You're the last person on earth who has the right to say that to me," Sylvia said, shaking her head as she fixed her gaze on him. "When Lawrence Landon took you in, you were just as guarded. My family raised you for years, and now, after a brief encounter with my parents, you're lecturing me from their side? Her twisted logic almost broke him. Liam couldn't stand it. How can you even compare the two? Don't you know what my past was like? Of course I know. Sylvia's eyes suddenly softened. She reached out and touched his face, her demeanor a complete reversal of her earlier madness. Her voice was gentle. I'm the person who knows you best in this world. Know me? Don't be ridiculous. We just spent some time together as children. Our lives after that were completely different. We've been on two parallel lines for years. Two parallel lines, extending forever, but never intersecting. Sylvia refused to accept this. That's only in two dimensions, she argued stubbornly. In vector space, parallel lines can be identical. Is that so? Liam smiled. But Sylvia, love isn't a formula. Sylvia froze, suddenly realizing she couldn't win this argument. She hadn't wanted to argue in the first place. She silently picked up the box beside her. Liam had seen that wooden box before. Sylvia always kept it with her. Even when he had her hostage, she had clutched it tightly, refusing to let go. It must be something very important. Given her recent actions, Liam watched her cautiously. What are you doing? Sylvia didn't speak, just calmly opened the wooden box. Liam's eyes were locked on her hands. As the box opened, an envelope was revealed inside. He watched as Sylvia carefully took it out and unsealed it. A moment later, an exquisite diamond necklace was in her hand. Looking at the chain, he could see spots of tarnish. It wasn't pure silver. Several of the larger stones were scratched. It was clearly old. You gave this to me when we were kids, Sylvia's voice cut through the silence. She clutched the pendant, her gaze distant. I remember my aunt's wedding. I couldn't stop staring at the necklace she was wearing. You secretly saved up your allowance and bought this for me. She spoke softly, then suddenly smiled. I remember I made fun of you for buying a fake. You told me that when you grew up and made money, you'd buy me a real one. Did I say that? Liam was taken aback. He didn't remember being so good at making empty promises as a child. Looking back at him, Sylvia's smile was tragic. It seems your memory has returned, but you've forgotten our past together. Liam paused, then said gently, Of course I remember the past. But Sylvia, we were just kids then. How could we understand love at that age? Besides, the world, I truly remember growing up and didn't have you in it. Then why do I remember? Why did I fall in love with you? Sylvia was on the verge of collapse. Liam waved his hand dismissively. How should I know? I'm not a mind reader. Seeing Sylvia stunned into silence by his retort, Liam's mouth twitched. I think you've just made me into some kind of emotional crutch. What kind of love was this? From Sylvia's perspective, a boy had suddenly appeared in her young life. They played together every day, becoming close friends. And then, one day, that boy disappeared. She went from being sad to desperately wanting to find him. She was only 8 or 9 at the time. Their lives after that were completely different. They had never reconnected. How could it possibly lead to marriage? An emotional crutch. Sylvia murmured, her eyes vacant. So you're saying, I'm not any worse than Cassandra Thorne? Liam shook his head. Sylvia, there's no comparison to be made. It's not about who's better. In a relationship, it's not about who gets picked. Everyone is an individual with their own way of thinking. Some people like thin, some like curvy, some like tall, some like short. Even if you traveled to the ends of the earth, you would still be you. You don't need to change for anyone. Liam rarely spoke to Sylvia at such length, especially with such calm. It was as if they were back before they had become enemies, back when they could still be called friends. But now it was too late. Sylvia felt a sting in her nose. She seemed to accept his logic, staring at him blankly. Even if you're right, let me ask you this. If, back then, you had recovered your memory first, or if I'd been the first one to find you, would things be different now? Her voice grew softer, filled with a fragile hope. She stared at him, desperate for a confirmation. Liam didn't speak. An image of Cassandra's face flashed in his mind. He turned his head and looked at Sylvia. In that moment, he seemed to understand. Sylvia just saw him as a good friend, and she couldn't accept that when she finally found him, there was someone else closer to him. Honestly, if it were him, if he had recovered his memories before Cassandra appeared, perhaps he would have sought Sylvia out. Perhaps, Liam said quietly. He never denied possibilities. Even if Cassandra had asked the question, his answer would have been the same. It was the truth. But there was no perhaps, was there? There's no such thing as rebirth. It's all just a dream, a chance to fix past regrets. Everyone's path is carved out by their own steps. There are no do-overs in life. The only thing you can do is accept reality and face the future, or choose to let yourself go. Now, he and Cassandra were married. His wife was at home waiting for him. He had chosen his life. From that moment on, every step he had taken was a step in the past. Liam had already chosen to let himself go. He had always been brutally honest, but to Sylvia, his words meant something else entirely. Perhaps, perhaps. Repeating the word to herself, Sylvia's eyes flickered. So, if she had been the first to appear in his life, he would have fallen in love with her. The SUV reached the mountain peak. The only road down was blocked by the fire, which was spreading rapidly. The vehicle stopped. Gazing at the inky blackness, lit only by the moon, Sylvia silently closed the wooden box. Her face was pale as she said, "Get out." Not knowing what she was planning, Liam obediently got out of the car. The mountaintop was surrounded by dense forest, except for a large, open expanse at the cliff's edge. Liam hadn't noticed on the way up, but now, as he stepped out of the car and saw the sheer drop, he had a sinking feeling. "Why did you bring me here?" He held onto the car door, looking at her cautiously. Sylvia didn't answer. She got out from the other side and walked silently to his side, her eyes fixed on the cliff ahead. Liam watched her come around the front of the car, his hand gripping the rear door handle tightly. Seeing his cautious posture, Sylvia smiled. "Liam, based on what you just said, let's make a bet." "Bet on what?" Sylvia clutched the box tightly. "Let's bet that this time, I'm the one who appears first. And let's see if you fall in love with me." "Are you kidding me?" "What's happened has happened," Liam retorted with a sigh. "You need to accept reality. So what if it's happened? What if this time, you really lose your memory?" Sylvia blinked, then broke into a wide smile. She pointed to the nearby cliff. "Well, if you jump from there and you don't lose your memory, I'll let you go. I'll accept my fate. But if you're lucky enough to get amnesia, I'll be the one by your side. This time, I'll be first." Liam never expected Sylvia to come up with something so utterly insane. His mouth twitched. "Are you serious? You want me to gamble with my life? Don't be so quick to refuse." "The cliff isn't that high," Sylvia said calmly. "Besides, I have Cassandra's address. If I die, she won't live either." A calm threat was often the most terrifying. Liam didn't doubt she was telling the truth, but "You think the Shaw family can infiltrate the Thorne estate?" "You never know," Sylvia said, suddenly smug. "I've made a few friends over the years. I've already told them, if I die, they're to find Cassandra Thorne, no matter what. So what if the Thornes are powerful? You still have to live your lives. And besides, how can you be so sure that my friends haven't already infiltrated the Stanton estate? They're already inside?" Liam froze. Sylvia smiled and continued. "Large estates are always short-staffed. Gardeners, for example. There's always a need for someone, right?" It was an explicit hint. They had been looking for a gardener, and Liam had been too busy, so he had delegated the task to Chloe. He couldn't blame Chloe. If Sylvia was saying this, she must have planned it long ago. Even if he had personally vetted the candidates, her people would have gotten in. She was right. So what if Sylvia died? He and Cassandra still had to live their lives. Were they supposed to live in fear forever? Seeing Liam's silence, Sylvia pressed on. "Think about it, Liam. The terms I'm offering are very favorable to you. I just want that one single exception. And besides, amnesia. Who can say for sure? Yeah, who can say for sure? If jumping off a mountain or into the sea caused amnesia, wouldn't the whole world be doing it?" Liam's mouth twitched. A lunatic. He truly couldn't comprehend her thought process. "I have no other choice, Liam. Don't you understand?" Sylvia suddenly laughed, staring straight at him, her voice a desperate roar. "I just want that one possibility, that one single exception." Liam was unmoved. "And what if there is no exception? If there's no—" Sylvia murmured, then suddenly screamed at him like a madwoman. "No matter what, my family was good to you. Fulfilling such a small request isn't too much to ask, is it? Not too much to ask. Just jump off a mountain? Maybe break my legs in the process? That would make you happy, right?" Liam had no intention of agreeing to her unreasonable demand. He twitched his lips, looking at the deranged Sylvia, and said bluntly, "And what if I lose my memory, you're the first one there, and I still don't like you? And another thing, if I just jump, and you're right there to find me first, what if I'm unconscious? Who knows what kind of weird things you'd do to me?" She came from a pharmaceutical family. Who knew what kind of concoctions she could whip up? There were many ways to repay a debt of gratitude. He wasn't about to accept this extreme one. At this moment, he valued his life more than ever. "Impossible." Sylvia, who had been calm for a moment, exploded. "There's no such possibility. If I'm the first one there, you will definitely fall in love with me. Is that so?" Liam smiled faintly and said no more. Seeing his refusal to cooperate, Sylvia's patience was wearing thin. She stared at him intently. "Are you jumping or not?" "Not." No hesitation. Did she think he was an idiot? Jumping off a mountain? What a joke. If he wasn't afraid for Cassandra, he wouldn't be wasting his time playing this ridiculous game with her. "Fine. You said it. Sylvia spat, suddenly moving closer. Liam froze, instantly on guard. What are you doing? Sylvia didn't answer, just stared at him as she slowly advanced. Liam instinctively took a couple steps back, but his heel hit the tire. Realizing he couldn't retreat any further, he lashed out and grabbed her by the throat. If you try anything, I'll kill you. A threat for a threat. Liam's voice was sharp, but Sylvia showed no fear. She looked straight at him, out of his line of sight, her hand shot up. Liam froze. He hadn't noticed she'd pulled out a syringe from somewhere. With lightning speed, Sylvia plunged the needle deep into his wrist. What is that? Liam cried out in pain, trying to shake it off, but some of the liquid had already been injected. He stared at her in panic. What did you inject me with? Don't worry. It's just a little sedative, Sylvia smiled. Why would I ever harm you? A numbing weakness spread from his wrist. Liam gripped the car door, fighting against the dizziness, and stared at the smiling, venomous woman. You make me sick. Sick? Sylvia smiled, stepping closer. It's okay. Soon you won't think I'm sick anymore. Never again. As she spoke, she raised her hand. Several bodyguards rushed forward and grabbed Liam's shoulders. Even though only a small amount of the drug had been injected, it took effect quickly. Within seconds, Liam's limbs felt numb. He was facing a dozen strong men. Even if he fought with all his might, his chances of winning were pathetically small. Push him off the mountain, Sylvia commanded without hesitation. Liam was furious. With his last ounce of strength, he broke free from the two men holding him, but the others quickly pinned him again. Sylvia was surprised he still had the strength to struggle, but what did it matter? She smiled. Liam, that syringe was filled with 10 times the normal dose. Even a little bit is impossible to resist. She walked up to him and cupped his face, her gaze softening for a moment. Liam, stop fighting. Don't worry. If you die, I'll come down and join you immediately. I'll never let you be alone. Lunatic. Liam was losing the strength to struggle. After a few moments, his head swam. In a dizzying haze, he was dragged to the edge of the cliff. The next second, a hard shove sent him staggering, and he fell straight into the ravine. You three go down that way. If he's dead, bring me his body. Sylvia's command was cut short. From behind them, on the road leading up the mountain, the piercing wail of sirens suddenly erupted. Why are you always following me? This is a public street. What makes you think I'm following you? I'm just walking. Really? Honey, you think I'm that easy to fool? We're the only two people on this tiny street, and you're telling me you're not following me. So what if I am? Why don't you just stop walking then? You. The fragmented voices overlapped and repeated. Liam's vision was a blur of black, with a single point of light growing larger. The white light coalesced, revealing a deep alleyway lined with low walls and adorned with peeling, faded signs in various colors and scripts. Go ahead, walk. This young lady can follow whoever she wants, a young, defiant voice chirped. The view sharpened, and Liam's gaze locked onto the speaker. He saw a face that was a miniature, highly similar version of Cassandra's. She wore a frilly white lace dress, her hands on her hips. The outfit was adorable, but her face was a mask of pure arrogance. Liam was stunned. He tried to walk toward her, but his body felt glued to the spot. Fine, follow me then. I'm going home. An equally young, but very familiar, voice replied. He turned his head and, as expected, saw a smaller version of himself. He was wearing a small gray backpack, a blue baseball cap, shorts, and a t-shirt, the standard uniform of a grade schooler. After speaking, the little him adjusted his cap and turned to leave without a second thought. Seeing him actually leave, little Cassandra looked furious. She clenched her small fists and glared at his retreating back. They had met as children. Liam was stunned. His vision blurred again, a staticky noise filling his ears like a skipping CD. The scene flickered and shifted to a corner of the alley. At the corner stood a high, gray-white wall. Behind a rusty, unpainted iron gate was an old-fashioned villa. Liam, why are you home so late today? My 6th grade class ended ages ago. Liam saw a girl with pigtails scolding the boy as she opened the gate. It was Sylvia. Little Liam glanced back over his shoulder and lied. It was nothing. I saw a food stall on the way and got something to eat with a friend. You little piggy. Little Sylvia laughed, poking him on the forehead as she pulled the gate open. Hurry up and come in. Mom and Dad are out on business today, so I'm in charge of quizzing you on your homework. Little Liam snorted and tilted his head up. Oomph, you think you could do 3rd grade math? Little Sylvia didn't hesitate to give him a playful punch. Haven't seen you for a few days and you've gotten mouthy, huh? You dare to sass your own sister? I'm sorry. Where did your parents go? Mom and Dad said they're planning to get us a little brother, little Sylvia said, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Liam could see little him clutch the straps of his backpack, his head dropping low, the brim of his cap hiding his eyes. Not noticing his subtle change, little Sylvia looked at him. "Hey, do you know how adults make babies?" "Huh." Little Sylvia pouted. "I know you were adopted, but when I ask my mom how I was born, she won't tell me." "I don't know either," little Liam said, scratching his head. "But my teacher said that if a boy and a girl sleep together, it happens." "Sylvia, you should probably stop coming into my room at night." Little Sylvia clearly wanted to say more, but his words stopped her. She stared at him, wide-eyed, a look of complete exasperation on her face, before finally saying, "Whatever. You're only in the 3rd grade. I won't stoop to your level." Little Liam scratched his head in confusion as he watched her walk away. He glanced back at the alley outside the gate before finally heading inside. The scene shifted again. It was late at night. Liam saw his younger self sitting at a desk, with little Sylvia dozing beside him. The room was brightly lit, and he was reading a book. A voice from outside the door prompted little Sylvia to wake up with a yawn. "I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted from cleaning up the classroom today." After she left, Liam watched as his younger self cautiously checked the bedroom door, then pulled a locked diary from a drawer and began writing diligently at the desk. Liam was incredibly curious. If he hadn't seen this, he would have completely forgotten about that diary. He was dying to know what his younger self had written. But before he could get a closer look, the scene began to shake violently. The entire room seemed on the verge of collapse. The chandeliers swung erratically. The bookshelf in the corner tilted precariously, and books tumbled to the floor. Earthquake! A scream from outside. Little Liam quickly shoved the diary back in the drawer and instinctively ran for the door. The house was in chaos. It was the middle of the night, and several servants were running outside in their pajamas. "Young master, get outside. Find an open space and take cover," a servant shouted at him. The scene was pure chaos. The earthquake had hit so fast. The house swayed, chunks of plaster fell from the walls, and the air was thick with dust. Seeing a middle-aged man run straight for little Sylvia's room, little Liam clenched his fists and bolted outside. The scene switched again. The streets were filled with fleeing people. Little Liam wandered aimlessly. The aftershocks were still rolling. At the end of the alley, little Cassandra stood by the wall, her eyes vacant, her pupils radiating fear. "The wall's about to collapse. What are you still standing here for?" Little Liam shouted, rushing forward and grabbing her wrist, pulling her toward the main road. After finally pushing through the crowd, little Liam took a deep breath, about to scold her. But when he turned and met her eyes, he fell silent. Little Cassandra stood behind him, clutching his wrist tightly, her eyes red, her lip bitten raw, a watery film covering her defiant face. "Never mind," little Liam sighed. He saw little Sylvia being carried out of the distant villa and felt a sense of relief. He looked at little Cassandra. "Where are your parents?" She didn't speak, just kept biting her lip, her red-rimmed eyes looking at him with a heart-wrenching vulnerability. Remembering that he was supposed to be a gentleman, little Liam scratched his head. "Why don't you come with me for now? My sister is over there." "No." Little Cassandra stubbornly shook her head, pointing angrily across the wide street. "You have to help me find them. I want you to be my bodyguard." "Huh." Without hesitation, she started pulling at a bracelet on her wrist. "My mom said this is very valuable. This will be my payment for hiring you. You have to come with me." She pulled with all her might, but the clasp was too strong. Her small hand twisted and turned red, but it wouldn't budge. "Stop. You're going to hurt yourself," little Liam said, stopping her. He pointed to the Shaw family's servants in the distance. "My sister is over there. Let me take you to them first. With adults around, they can help you find your mom and dad." "No." Little Cassandra gripped his wrist tightly, her expression one of absolute refusal. "Who knows if they're kidnappers? I only want you to come with me." "I'm more worried you're a kidnapper," little Liam retorted. He looked at where she had pointed. "Are you sure your parents are over there? Isn't that the port? We came by boat. That's where we got off." "Okay, but I'm only going with you that far. If you try to take me anywhere weird, I'm not going." Little Cassandra didn't answer, just grabbed his arm with a bossy, non-negotiable air and dragged him toward the port. "So you were squatting near my house by yourself because you got separated from your parents?" little Liam said, cautiously making conversation as they walked. "But why did you pick me? Wouldn't it be more reliable to call the police or find an adult? Strange adults are all kidnappers. Didn't your mom ever tell you that?" She shot him a sidelong glance. Even as an observer, Liam could feel his younger self's mood darken at her words. Little Cassandra fell silent, her gaze dropping to the strap of his backpack. Following her eyes, little Liam clutched his bag to his chest. "Why are you staring at my backpack?" "My dad gave me the same one," she said quickly, and said no more. Perhaps the Liam of that time didn't understand what she meant, but the Liam of now understood instantly. The backpack had a small logo on it, for large characters spelling out Shaw Pharma. In that moment, Liam realized why she had approached him. The Thorne family must have been in town for an event hosted by the Shaws, and in the chaos, a young Cassandra had gotten separated from her family. Thinking of her mother, Catherine Thorne, always laughing, a bit scatterbrained, it was entirely plausible she could lose a child. Liam never knew that he and Cassandra shared such a history. The aftershocks continued. The scene shifted again to a deserted coastline. No adult would run to the sea during an earthquake. The rising tide was something even a grown man couldn't fight, but for unsupervised children, they didn't know the danger. Liam watched them run toward the beach, panting. "There's no one here," little Liam complained. "This is where we came from. They must be looking for me. You have to wait here with me," she said, her tone still unyieldingly bossy. "Don't you see the tide is coming in? What if we get swept away? I'm not waiting here to die with you. I'm going back. If you want to find your parents, you should come with me. At least it's safer over there." Little Cassandra didn't speak, just stared at him, her small hands clenched tight, yanking on his arm to force him to turn around. "What does tide coming mean? Kids in kindergarten here know that. You don't." Little Liam was stunned. "You can't swim, can you? I don't live by the sea. I don't care. This is where I came from, and you have to wait here with me. The water will rise, and we'll drown." Little Liam finally snapped and tried to leave, but his hand was held in a death grip. Watching this, Liam felt his own anxiety rise. He saw the water creeping higher and higher, the aftershocks still trembling, and the two of them still at the water's edge. He realized then that Cassandra had been fearless even as a child. Little Cassandra's eyes were red. She tightened her grip on his wrist and declared, "If the sea wants to drown me, let it." "My dad said our Thorne family fears nothing." "Are you crazy?" Little Liam exclaimed. "Didn't your teacher ever teach you about natural disasters?" "I don't care. You're not leaving today." The scene was so real it made Liam's heart ache. But thankfully, amid their bickering, an adult voice suddenly rang out. "What you two kids doing? Can't you see the tide is rising? Get over here." Looking over, Liam saw a familiar face. Lawrence Landon's head of security, Jason. Jason and a large group of men were rushing toward the beach. "Are they your parents?" Little Liam asked hastily. Little Cassandra's expression turned grim. She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the shipping containers. "They're bad guys. My dad showed me pictures of people who wear clothes like that. They must be trying to kidnap me. Let's go hide behind the containers. If they catch us, they'll threaten your parents too." Little Liam didn't speak, but he didn't resist as much. Liam watched as they hid behind a shipping container, the water already up to their waists. His younger self and Cassandra shivered, clinging to a railing as Jason's men approached. The scene suddenly went black. When it returned, Liam saw himself being held in Jason's arms. Jason's face was grim as he ordered the men behind him, "Get the young master on the boat. As for the girl, leave her." "Ugh," Liam groaned, slowly opening his eyes. He saw white walls and medical equipment. Pain radiated from every part of his body. He looked around, dazed, the only sound a piercing electronic beep. He was confused. Had he been transported into his younger self's body? Was he about to relive the experience of being taken by Jason? No. There was no Jason among the doctors and nurses rushing into the room. Liam stared, bewildered, as several bodyguards cleared a path. The monarch of the UK, the white-haired Lord Charles, was walking toward him, his face etched with anxiety. Lord Charles's mouth was moving, saying something urgently, but Liam couldn't hear a word. A constant, high-pitched ringing, like a cicada's screech, filled his ears. He saw Charles call out to him a few times, then anxiously wave his hand. A dozen medical personnel rushed in and began fussing with various machines around him. It was as if his body no longer belonged to him. He couldn't feel it, only a profound heaviness, as if it were filled with lead. He couldn't even lift his arm. Ow! In the darkness, the sound of teeth sinking into flesh. Liam was back at the port. He saw little Liam bite down hard on Jason's arm. Jason cried out in pain and let go. The next second, little Cassandra rushed over, grabbed his arm, and pulled him toward the water's edge. "Don't let them catch you. Dad said those men are international mercenaries. If they catch us, we'll die a horrible death," she shouted, her young voice ringing out. It seemed the divergence had begun with the earthquake. He and little Cassandra ran along the shore, hiding behind one shipping container after another. From the empty port, Jason's furious voice echoed. "Useless fools. You can't even find 2 children. If I don't bring Liam back today, I'll shoot every last one of you." "Your name is Liam?" Behind a dark blue container, little Cassandra whispered. Little Liam didn't answer, his eyes peering around the edge of the container at the men in black suits searching nearby. His name was indeed Liam, but he had no idea when he had provoked these people. Seeing him stay silent, little Cassandra said, "I guess it's my lucky day. Don't worry. When my parents get here, it'll be over for them." She puffed out her chest, her clothes soaked, her wet hair plastered to her face, making her look less aloof. "When will they get here?" little Liam asked. His clothes were soaked and uncomfortable. His little backpack was probably completely ruined. "I don't know. We'll just have to wait. As long as they come, we'll be safe." Little Cassandra raised an eyebrow, blinking as she magnanimously offered, "When this is over, I'll allow you to stay at my house for a few days." She said it as if she were bestowing a great honor, completely matter of fact. Little Liam pouted. "Easy for you to say. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have come to the beach in the first place. What's that supposed to mean? I'm treating you so well, and you dare to mock me." Little Cassandra flared up, pointing a small finger at him. Before little Liam could reply, a man's voice came from nearby. "Over here. I heard them. They're over here." Instantly, several men swarmed toward them. Little Liam's heart pounded. He grabbed little Cassandra's arm and pressed down on her shoulder. "Quick, take a deep breath." A deep breath for what? There was no time to explain. Little Liam shoved her head under the water and quickly ducked down himself. The water was only waist deep, just enough to cover their heads if they crouched. MMPH. Underwater, little Cassandra squeezed her eyes shut and held her nose. Having had no time to take a breath, she couldn't handle the pressure. She lasted only a few seconds before her mouth opened, trying to surface. Above the water, dark shadows flickered. Little Liam used all his strength to hold her head down. Her hands flailed in the water. She clearly couldn't swim, and in this situation, after only a few dozen seconds, she passed out. Not noticing she had fainted, little Liam kept his eyes fixed on the surface. "Basha, come over here," one of the searchers whispered to Jason. Jason frowned and walked over. He looked where his man was pointing and let out a smirk. This was the coast. The water wasn't deep. Not only could you see two kids, you could see a fish if it swam by. "Interesting," Jason sneered. He looked at the small bite mark on his hand, a cruel idea forming. He ordered his men, "Let's pull back." "Yes, sir." Though confused, his men obeyed. Seeing the shadows on the surface disappear, little Liam shot up, sputtering out water and gasping for air. Beside him, little Cassandra was motionless. "Oh no," he panicked, reaching into the water and grabbing her by the collar, using all his strength to pull her head out. But she had already inhaled too much water and was unconscious. Seeing her state, little Liam frantically unwrapped his backpack strap, tied it around her arm, and dragged her toward the shore. In his third-grade body, his strength was limited. He collapsed on the sand, panting, completely exhausted from just getting her to the water's edge. Little Cassandra's face was deathly pale. "If I don't save her, she's going to die." Little Liam scrambled to his feet, wanting to find an adult for help. But looking at her bloodless lips, he knew that by the time help arrived, it would be too late. Luckily, growing up by the sea, he had been taught basic water rescue skills in school. Who? He took a few deep breaths, remembering the first aid steps from his textbook. He pinched her nose shut and lowered his head, pressing his lips to hers. After a few breaths, he was about to start chest compressions when a mocking voice came from behind him. Well, at your age, you already know first aid? No wonder the old man was wary of you. You got some good genes." Little Liam froze and looked back. The men in black suits who had been chasing him emerged from behind the containers. "But your technique is all wrong. There's no way you can save anyone like that," Jason sneered, giving a signal with his hand. The men behind him rushed forward and grabbed little Liam's arms. "Let go of me. What are you doing? I don't even know you." Little Liam struggled frantically. Jason just laughed coldly. "It doesn't matter if you don't know me. You're not supposed to." As he spoke, he pulled a white cloth from his pocket, as if by magic, and pressed it over little Liam's nose and mouth. As darkness fell, Liam heard his cruel voice. "Throw the girl back in the water." "Yes, sir." And then, he knew no more. Memories flooded his mind like a tidal wave, a deluge so powerful it felt like his skull would crack. Cassandra. She was drowning. Cassandra was drowning. Liam murmured her name, his mouth agape, trying to scream but producing no sound. In the sterile light of the hospital room, Lord Charles stared intently at Liam's twitching form on the bed. He watched the doctor adjust the monitors, his gaze fixed on Liam's face, catching the faint movement of his lips. He turned to the physician. "Aiden, what is he saying?" "DR." Aiden leaned in, pressing his ear close to the oxygen mask. After a moment, he straightened up and shook his head. "I can't make it out. It sounds like Thor, maybe." Thorn. Lord Charles's brow furrowed. He stared down at Liam, saying nothing more. The next time young Liam awoke, it was to the glare of white lights on all sides. He looked around, realizing he was in a room with no windows. His hands and feet were bound, immobilizing him completely. Next to him, a disheveled, middle-aged woman sat on a bed. Despite her tangled hair, her features held an undeniable air of nobility. She was dressed in a drab, gray-white patient's gown, a heavy iron chain shackled to her ankle and bolted to the bed frame. Young Liam's voice was a dry rasp as he met the woman's gaze, his heart hammering. He didn't know where he was, only that he had to get back. He had to save his friend. She's my friend, right? The girl whose name he didn't even know. He wanted to wake her up, to tell her he hadn't meant to let her drown. The moment their eyes met, the woman's expression flickered. She sprang up from the bed with surprising agility. "Little boy, what's your name?" she asked, her voice tight with tension as she clutched the iron bed frame. Young Liam flinched, instinctively trying to shrink away before forcing a sliver of courage. "Hello, ma'am. My name is Liam." The woman's face lit up with a wild, manic excitement. "Liam? Your name is Liam? Is your father's name Victor Lynn?" "My father." The boy stared, startled and confused. I don't know who my father is. I was adopted by a nice couple." "Adopted?" the woman murmured, her eyes losing focus for a moment. Then, her gaze shot to the heavy, sealed iron door, and a crazed laugh erupted from her throat. "Ha ha! Lawrence, is this your revenge? Is this your grand plan?" She was a madwoman. Young Liam pressed himself back, watching her in terror, not daring to speak. After her fit of laughter subsided, she whipped her head back around, her eyes boring into him. "Child, you listen to me. My name is Eleanor Landon. I am your grandmother. There is a man named Lawrence Landon. He is your enemy. You must never, ever believe a word he says." Young Liam swallowed hard, 1,000 questions exploding in his mind. But one thought overpowered them all. He had to save his friend. "Ma'am, can you help me get these off? My friend." He began, his voice trembling. Before he could finish, the iron door creaked open. A middle-aged man in a wheelchair rolled in, a strange, cruel smile on his face. Behind him stood the man who had tied Liam up in the first place. "Lawrence, if you have a problem, you deal with me. Leave my grandson alone." Eleanor went berserk at the sight of him, thrashing against her chains, filling the room with a deafening clatter. "Still dreaming, Eleanor?" Lawrence Landon sneered, motioned for his man Jason to push him forward. "I've already brought him here. Do you really think I'd let him go?" His malice was a physical presence in the room. Young Liam stared at the two adults acting like lunatics. His focus wasn't on them, but on Jason. He didn't care about their feud or whether they were his family. All he wanted to know was what had happened to his friend. Was she really dead? Amidst the taunts, Eleanor suddenly grew calm. She stared at Liam, then let out a sharp, defiant laugh. "Lawrence, you're just a pathetic, impotent old man, aren't you? You're doing all this because you're terrified I'll tell the world. You tricked my parents, used my pregnancy to blackmail me. All because you were afraid I'd expose the truth that you can't." Slap. Before she could finish, Lawrence, looking utterly unhinged, propelled his wheelchair forward with a furious shove of his hands and struck her across the face. "So what if you know? The Landon fortune is mine now, and no one will ever know who the father of that bastard child in your belly really is." Lawrence's face twisted in a mask of demented glee. He gripped the arms of his chair, triumphant. "You know what they'll say, Eleanor? They'll say I'm a saint. Lawrence Landon, the man who stood by his crazy wife. And you will rot in here forever." His gaze fell upon young Liam, a cold smile spreading across his lips. "And I'll tell you what, Eleanor. I will make sure your grandson spends his life at the mercy of others. And when the time is right, I will marry him off to the Shaw family. For the rest of his life, he will be nothing more than a pawn on my board." "You're insane." Eleanor shook her head, a vision of a bleak future flashing before her eyes. She stared at Lawrence in disbelief. The man was a monster. "Ha ha ha!" Lawrence roared with laughter, pointing a trembling finger at the boy. "Don't you worry. One day, your precious grandson will have to look at me and call me grandfather." He gave a sharp nod. Jason immediately moved in, his hand clamping around young Liam's throat. He squeezed. Liam's world went dark. "Grandfather." Liam's eyes fluttered open. His throat was parched, his voice a broken rasp. "Yes, my dear boy, grandfather is here. I'm right here." Lord Charles, who had been watching him anxiously, leaned in close. At his side, the doctor took the cue and quietly exited the room. Liam struggled to focus, his gaze landing on the old man's face, his eyes brimming with tears. "You remember me?" don't you? Liam, Charles's voice broke, overwhelmed with emotion. Liam shifted slightly, staring at the man. He managed to force out a few words. What are you talking about? Who's your grandson? Charles froze, a complex swirl of emotions clouding his expression. Liam, his mind a confusing fog of dream and reality, felt a surge of panic. Where is Cassandra Thorne? Is she dead? In my dream, wasn't she about to drown? Charles snapped out of his reverie. That name you were calling out in your sleep. Was it Cassandra Thorne? Unconscious? A dream? What was real? Liam's memories felt scrambled, his brain a chaotic mess. He was in a hospital room, but flashes of a sealed room and the searing pain of electrocution kept overwhelming him. Have you found a foster home? Yes, the director has agreed. He'll help create memory markers for Liam. Arrange a few more accidents. Make sure he doesn't remember. BZT. The sounds echoed in his head, a phantom hum he couldn't shake. He was safe now, he knew that, but his body still felt like it was being torn apart by 1,000 tiny shocks. Where am I? Liam blinked hard, trying desperately to separate the nightmare from the now. A sharp, throbbing pain in his leg shocked him back to full awareness. You've been unconscious for several days, Lord Charles's voice said gently from his side. Don't be afraid, my boy. The people who threatened you are under my control. You just focus on healing, and in a few days... Healing? Liam looked up, confused, and his eyes widened. A white, plastered object was suspended in the air. He stared at it. Was that his leg? My leg. He tried to move it, but felt nothing. Seeing him try to sit up, Charles grew frantic. Don't move. Your leg was badly broken. The doctors had to insert steel pins. You can't move. Broken. Liam's mind raced. So, Sylvia's people really had pushed him off the cliff. And he'd been rescued. Which meant this room, this man sitting before him. This was real. Yes. Lord Charles nodded, his expression one of profound relief. Thankfully, the cliffs near the Mornin Hills estate aren't too high. There's a farm at the bottom, and you landed in a grove of trees. His face darkened. The people who did this to you are in my custody. When you're feeling better, you could decide their fate. Liam wasn't concerned about that right now. All he could think about was his leg. Will it heal properly? He was about to be a father. He was alive, but if he lost a leg, how could he play with his child? And Cassandra, if she saw him like this, it would break her heart. He couldn't let that happen. It will. I brought in a top orthopedic specialist. It will heal perfectly, but you must rest, Charles assured him. Good. Liam finally breathed a sigh of relief. An image of younger Cassandra, her face fierce and defiant, flashed in his mind, and he couldn't help but smile. He never knew he and Cassandra had a history like that. Sylvia had pushed him off a cliff, hoping to give him amnesia. Instead, not only did he not forget, but the deepest, most buried parts of his memory had come flooding back. A blessing in disguise. Still, he was curious. How had Cassandra been saved back then? And why, after all this time, did she seem to have no memory of him? He shifted his gaze to the side. Where's my phone? Right here. Charles held up a sterile bag for the bedside table. Inside lay the shattered remains of his phone. Liam fell silent. Charles quickly added, Is there anything else you need? I'll have someone buy it for you immediately. The man was being too kind, and his eyes held a strange, affectionate look that Liam couldn't quite place. His mind was too sluggish to figure out. Right, he thought, Caleb Thorne must have called him personally. Charles is probably just afraid of anything else going wrong on his watch. The effort of thinking was too much. His strength gave out, and he drifted back into sleep. Seeing him asleep again, Charles sighed and opened the door. When he wakes, get him anything he needs. Take good care of him. No more accidents. Yes, sir, the attendant at the door replied with a bow. Charles took one last look at Liam before closing the door. Back in his car, he pulled out his phone and dialed Caleb Thorne. The hashtag FireRapMorninHillsAK had been pinned to the top of the news feeds, and Caleb, who had been waiting anxiously, answered instantly. Your Majesty, how is Liam? He's been stabilized, Charles said, taking a deep breath, a hint of joy in his voice. Caleb, I have you to thank. If you hadn't told me in time, my grandson would be dead. Caleb, who had just started to relax, frowned. Your grandson? What do you mean? Liam is my grandson, Charles declared, beaming. Caleb, you and your wife should pack your things and come over. As soon as Liam can leave the hospital, I'm holding a ceremony to welcome him into the family. The words hit Caleb like a physical blow. He held the phone, stunned. You're saying Liam is your grandson? Hold on, let me process this. Charles waited. A few seconds later, Caleb gasped. So that means Victor Lynn was your son. Victor? Charles raised an eyebrow. So Eleanor had given their son a Chinese name. Is Victor in the country as well? Bring him with you. Victor, he passed away years ago, Caleb said quietly, still reeling from the shock. Passed away. Charles was stunned. Then what Liam said before. It was all true. What's true or not, I don't know. All I know is that this is all that old bastard Lawrence Landon's doing, Caleb snarled, his voice turning to ice. Lawrence. Charles repeated the name, his own face hardening into a mask of cold fury. Where is he? I have him locked up, Caleb replied. Bring him here. Bring me this Lawrence Landon, Charles commanded, his voice sharp as a razor. There are some old accounts that need to be settled. Though Caleb didn't know the full story, putting it all through the filter of Liam is the monarch's grandson made a lot of things click into place. After a moment's thought, he offered a piece of advice. Perhaps it's best not to make this public just yet. If you bring Liam back into the fold now, his official status will be that of a royal bastard. That's not a good reputation to have. Charles fell silent. In his excitement, he'd forgotten that crucial detail. It was true. He had a wife now. And even if theirs had been a political marriage, forcing Liam into the family would brand him as illegitimate. That title was unseemly. Seeing Charles's silence, Caleb knew he understood. I think it's best we wait until Liam has recovered before we discuss this further. Yes, you're right. I was being rash, Charles agreed. The priority was Liam's health. Once he was well, the rest could be sorted out. After hanging up, Charles opened his phone's photo gallery. At the very top was a picture of a young woman in a white sundress, her smile radiant. Sunlight bathed her, making her glow so brightly that the Eiffel Tower in the background seemed to fade in her light. Charles caressed the screen, swiping through a few more photos as if to bring the girl back to life. So you didn't leave without a word all those years ago, he murmured, closing his eyes. So, it was Lawrence who harmed you. When he opened his eyes again, they were filled with a murderous resolve. He gave a cold command. Double the security. Ensure Liam's safety at all costs. And when Caleb Thorne delivers Lawrence, lock him in holding cell 1. Yes, sir. How long were you going to hide the Morning Hills fire from me? At the Stanton estate, Cassandra's eyes were dark with fury. She clutched her phone, staring directly at Evelyn. For days, Evelyn had used every excuse, no electronics during pregnancy, to keep her offline, promising to tell her if she found any clues. But 2 full days had passed. It was impossible that Evelyn hadn't found anything. Suspicious, Cassandra had finally checked the news herself. The fire was the top trending topic. At a time like this, she couldn't afford to be complacent about any accident. Evelyn trembled. Miss, I only just heard about it myself. Still lying to me? Cassandra's eyebrow shot up, her eyes blazing with a fire that looked ready to tear Evelyn to shreds. Evelyn's heart sank. She dropped to her knees in front of Cassandra. Miss, you can't get this worked up. Your father said. Said what? He said. Evelyn's mind raced, scrambling for an excuse, but she knew it was useless. Cassandra's trust in her was gone. Any explanation would sound like a lie. Right now, she hated Sylvia Shaw with a burning passion. If it wasn't for her, she wouldn't be in this terrifying position. Evelyn shivered, watching Cassandra's face turn ashen. She swallowed hard, about to try and explain, when the shrill ring of a phone shattered the silence. The sound made Evelyn jump. She fumbled for her phone, finally getting a grip on it. When she saw the caller ID, she let out a sigh of relief. Miss, it's your father. She held the phone up for Cassandra to see. Cassandra narrowed her eyes. Answer it. Put on speaker. Yes. Evelyn didn't dare argue. She answered the call and switched on the speakerphone. Caleb's voice came through immediately. Evelyn, how is Cassandra doing? Miss, she's... Evelyn glanced at Cassandra and quickly lied. She's in the study, reviewing some documents. Oh, Caleb, relieved, didn't detect anything amiss. Go to the royal residence. Liam fell from the mountain. The royal family has taken him in to recover. I need you to go check on the situation first. If he's stable, you can bring Cassandra over. His intentions were good. Everyone remembered Cassandra's breakdown after Liam's last brush with death at sea and her insistence on marrying him anyway. They were all being cautious this time, but it was too late. Standing right there, Cassandra had heard every single word. Liam fell from the mountain. He fell. Her eyes flew open, her heart seizing in a panic so intense it felt like it would explode. The air caught in her throat. Her breathing suddenly labored. Seeing Cassandra's face drain of color, Evelyn quickly replied, Yes, sir, I understand. She hung up and rushed to Cassandra's side. Miss, please, don't worry. Mister, Lynn will be fine. HHH. Cassandra gasped for air, but her windpipe felt blocked. Her face took on a frightening bluish tint that terrified Evelyn. Thinking fast, Evelyn grabbed the nearby oxygen mask and pressed it over Cassandra's mouth and nose. Miss, please calm down. Breathe, just breathe. Inhale, she pleaded, her forehead slick with sweat. Seeing Cassandra finally take a few ragged breaths, her color slowly returning, Evelyn felt a wave of relief. Miss, I'll go right now. I'll go see how Mr. Lynn is doing, and you wait here. The moment I have news, She didn't finish. Cassandra's hand shot out and clamped around her wrist like a vice. Her eyes were bloodshot as she stared at Evelyn, her voice muffled by the mask. Drive. The word was barely audible, but its meaning was crystal clear. Just hearing that Liam had fallen was enough to send her into a panic. If she saw him lying in a hospital bed, there was no way Evelyn could agree. Miss, your father said Mr. Lynn must be all right. Let me go check first. You can't get this agitated. You need to take care of yourself. Her pleading was useless. She hadn't seen Liam for days. Without him, the hours dragged on, each day an eternity. Life had lost its flavor. Now that there was finally news of him, how could she not go to him immediately? She was desperate to see him, to tell him that if something like this ever happened again, he had to tell her. They could figure it out together. They were a single unit now. A family. Miss. No matter how much Evelyn pleaded, Cassandra's grip on her wrist didn't loosen. Her voice was stubborn, muffled but unyielding. Drive. I have to see him with my own eyes. Inside the royal residence. Your grandfather brought that Liam fellow back. Natalie's expression was sour. The rumors about Liam killing someone at the estate had just started to gain traction, and now he was back. Why would grandfather bring him here? Ethan asked, completely bewildered. You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Natalie snapped. Your grandfather has him in a VIP suite, brought in that famous orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Aiden, and there's a whole team of guards outside his door. Even I can't get near. Who the hell was this Liam to deserve that kind of treatment? Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. No way. Has grandfather gone mad? Shut your mouth. Natalie hissed. Just then, the door opened and a middle-aged noblewoman with honey-brown curls walked in. Ethan immediately fell silent, murmuring respectfully, Aunt Anna. The newcomer was Princess Anna, Lord Charles's eldest daughter. Natalie forced a stiff smile. Anna, what are you doing here? Anna surveyed the room, then sank gracefully onto the sofa, her posture regal, her voice cool. What, am I not allowed? Of course not, Natalie said quickly, shaking her head. I was just chatting with Ethan. I wasn't expecting you. Anna let out a cold humph and studied Natalie for a long moment. Have you seen the boy father brought back? Natalie's brow twitched. Of course we've seen him. Ethan and I were just talking about it. We have no idea who this kid is, but father seems unusually concerned about him. She said carefully, probing for Anna's reaction. Anna narrowed her eyes, her gaze shifting between Natalie and Ethan. Natalie, you don't have to look at me like that. I came to tell you that whatever father decides, it's best you two don't interfere. If you anger him, none of us will come out of it well. As the heir to the throne, Anna saw right through her sister's machinations, especially with Ethan currently grounded. She was offering a genuine warning, but Natalie exploded. Anna, what is that supposed to mean? Father is getting old. Who knows if this Liam kid is good or bad? And besides, what he did to Ethan. Natalie, Anna's voice cut through the air like a whip. Whatever father chooses to do is his business. I've seen the things online these past few days. I came here specifically to warn you not to do something you'll regret. It wasn't the first time Anna had spoken harshly to her, but it had always been about family matters. This time, it was over a complete stranger, a stranger who was the same age as her son. As Natalie recalled, Anna had never even met Liam during his last visit, and now she was defending him? Her own son had been wronged, and now her father was fawning over this outsider. The injustice made Natalie snap. Why are you lecturing me? You don't have a family. You don't have to worry about anything. But I have Ethan. I have to think about my son. Natalie's composure shattered. And don't think I don't know what you've been up to behind my back. You've got your eye on Liam, haven't you? The accusation hung in the air. Ethan's jaw dropped, as if he'd just heard something utterly forbidden. Even Anna was taken aback. She had offered a simple word of caution, and Natalie had completely lost it. Her gaze turned to ice. Ethan, leave us. Knowing he was about to overhear something he shouldn't, Ethan quickly complied, pulling the door shut behind him and dismissing the guards outside. Seeing her son sent away, Natalie felt her suspicions confirmed. But she didn't want to completely burn the bridge with her sister. Anna, I know you like to play around with younger men, but this Liam is off limits. He has a history with Ethan. There are plenty of other handsome faces in the world. What in God's name are you talking about? Anna's face was livid. As a princess who had never married, she was constantly plagued by rumors, but she never imagined her own sister would believe them. Rage rose in her throat. Natalie, has hatred completely blinded you? Since when do we have any say in what father does? I don't remember you being so considerate of father before. Why star now with me? Natalie was beyond reason. First her father, now her sister, both taking an outsider's side against her own family. She couldn't take it. Don't ask me what I'm going to do. Since you're on father's side, don't bother trying to persuade me. What kind of power did this Liam kid have to have her father and sister so utterly bewitched? Seeing the situation was hopeless, Anna said no more. She gave Natalie a long, deep look and sighed. Fine, I've warned you. It's up to you whether you listen. She stood and left. Out in the hall, Anna saw Ethan waiting. Without a word, she walked past him toward the elevator. Natalie had always been emotionally volatile, but she never thought this Liam character could push her to a complete breakdown. Anna was becoming more and more curious about this young man. Instead of returning to her suite, she had her driver take her to the VIP medical wing. Just as Natalie had said, the floor was teeming with guards. Seeing Anna, they saluted crisply. Princess Anna. Yes. Anna nodded, her gaze falling on the closed door. The young man named Liam, is he in this room? The entire top floor of the hospital had been sealed off by the royal family. The question was redundant, but Anna asked it to state her purpose. The guard at the door nodded. Yes, princess. But Mr. Lin has not yet regained consciousness. The monarch has given orders that no one is to approach. I see. Anna abandoned the thought of going inside. Then please inform me when he wakes up. Yes, princess. Just as she was about to leave, she turned and saw, at the other end of the corridor, a strikingly beautiful girl with a pale face being supported as she walked unsteadily toward them. Anna watched, intrigued, as the two women approached. She heard the woman in glasses ask the guard at the door. Excuse me, is Liam in there? The guard stared at them, but didn't answer. Seeing their desperation, Anna couldn't help but ask, and you are? Her exquisite dress and regal bearing announced her status. Evelyn's eyes darted to her, and she quickly replied, We're from the Thorne family. This is Miss Thorne, and I'm her assistant. At the mention of the Thorne family, Anna's expression flickered. Her gaze fell on Cassandra, and she could feel the palpable anxiety radiating from the young woman. Her curiosity piqued. Anna decided not to leave just yet. Liam is indeed in there, she said patiently, but he hasn't woken up yet. You should go home for now. Go home. Cassandra's long lashes trembled, a spark of fury igniting in her dull eyes. All of you, get out of my way. The words hung in the air. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. Across from them, one of Anna's attendants bristled. Miss, do you have any idea who you're speaking to? I don't care who you are. No one is stopping me from seeing Liam today. Cassandra's voice was firm, her vacant eyes now blazing with unshakable resolve. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Knowing the woman before them was no ordinary person, Evelyn was about to try and explain, but Anna suddenly laughed. She wasn't angry. Instead, she turned to the guards and commanded softly, Let them pass. But the monarch's orders were. The guard looked torn. Anna smiled and waved a dismissive hand. I'll explain it to my father. Let them through. Yes, princess. Seeing her insistence, the guard said no more and stepped aside. The moment the door opened, Cassandra bolted inside, with Evelyn close behind. When she saw Liam's legs suspended in the air, his face covered by an oxygen mask as he lay unconscious, Cassandra's control finally shattered. Liam, she whispered, taking hesitant, shuffling steps toward the bed. He lay there, eyes closed, face pale. If not for the faint mist fogging the mask with each breath, she would have thought she had lost him all over again. Evelyn quickly moved a chair to the bedside. Cassandra sank into it, her hand trembling as she reached out to gently touch Liam's. It felt like a final, heart-wrenching goodbye. Anna, who had followed them in, took in the entire scene. She glanced at Cassandra's back, then turned to Evelyn. Are your Miss and this Mr. Lin lovers? They are. Evelyn, who was about to say they were married, caught herself. She remembered their instructions to be discreet, and, knowing the woman before her was royalty, she lied. Yes, they're lovers. I see. Anna nodded. It was plain to see. The scene stirred a faint sense of nostalgia in her. Her gaze fell on Liam's face on the bed. For a moment, she thought he looked familiar, though she couldn't place where she'd seen him before. Father's reasons for protecting him must go beyond his connection to the Thorns, she thought. Perhaps this sense of familiarity is the real reason. Anna's eyes glinted. Well, I won't disturb their reunion. Of course. Evelyn nodded, and as Anna left, she followed her out. This moment belonged to her miss and Liam. Anyone else was an intrusion. Evelyn quietly closed the door, left to stand in the hallway under the watchful eyes of numerous guards. On the way back to the residence, just as she expected, Anna received a call from Charles. "Anna, you went to Liam's room?" Charles's voice came through the moment she answered. "Liam." Anna repeated the name silently. She hadn't expected her father to be on such familiar terms with him already. "Yes, I want to take a look." She didn't mention the thorns. She was simply curious about the connection between Liam and her father. "It's good that you went. I have something I need to discuss with you." To her surprise, Charles wasn't angry. Instead, his tone became somber. Anna's expression grew serious. "Of course, father. I'm on my way now." "Good. Meet me in the study." After a 10-minute drive, Anna arrived at Charles's residence. The moment she entered, he gestured for her to close the door. She did so, then walked to the sofa and waited for him to speak. Charles sighed. After a servant had served tea, he began. "Anna, your father is getting old. There are some things I can finally tell you." Anna said nothing, listening intently. Charles clutched his phone. "It's an old story. When I was young, I had a first love. We met at Rhodes College. She was Chinese. Later," he trailed off, his face etched with a look of profound loss, as if the whole world had abandoned him. In just those few sentences, Anna understood. "So this young man, Liam, he is your illegitimate son?" Charles drew a sharp breath and, after a moment of silence, nodded. Although it was common for royalty to have such secrets and politically arranged marriages, Anna's eyes still widened slightly. "It was my fault. I truly had no choice back then but to agree to the marriage." Charles closed his eyes in pain, bracing himself for his daughter's judgment. But Anna quickly composed herself. "Father, it doesn't blame you." She didn't know how to comfort him, but as a woman who had been raised in the strict, emotionally distant world of nobility, she offered what she could. "The fact that you allowed me to choose not to marry already makes you an incredibly progressive father. I understand completely." In that moment, it was as if a lifetime of pain and fear had been validated. Charles's eyes flew open. "Anna, do you mean that?" "Of course I do." Anna nodded. Visibly, a great weight lifted from Charles's shoulders. That's good, that's good." Anna managed a small smile. "So, father, are you planning to bring Liam back into the family?" "Yes." Charles nodded, a rare look of embarrassment crossing his stern face. He desperately wanted to bring Liam back, to make up for the debt he owed his first love. But the issue of his illegitimate status was a sticking point. For the royal family, it was awkward. "I understand," Anna said, nodding, waiting for Charles to continue. If her father was telling her this much, he must have already considered the next steps. Charles looked at her, his expression sheepish. "Anna, if it's possible, how would you feel about announcing to the public that Liam is your adopted son?" It was the best compromise he could think of. Princess Anna was currently the sole heir. While her unmarried status was a constant source of gossip, announcing that she had an adopted son would be a perfectly logical and acceptable development. Anna seemed to have anticipated this. She had no objections. "I can do that," she agreed. "But I think we should wait until he wakes up so I can speak with him. I haven't even had a proper conversation with him yet." "Yes." As anxious as he was, Charles knew they needed a chance to meet. He summoned Dr. Aiden and inquired about Liam's condition. In 3 days, Liam would be cleared for discharge. Liam felt like he'd slept for an eternity. He was completely unaware that during this chaotic drama, the course of his life had been decided for him. When he opened his eyes again, Cassandra was slumped over the side of his bed, her head resting on her arms, her hands still clutching his. A jacket was draped over her shoulders. She looked like she had only just fallen asleep. His mind still foggy, Liam whispered her name. "Cassandra." He hadn't had water in what felt like forever. The sound that came out was a dry, ragged rasp. His throat was raw, his lips cracked like a parched field. But Cassandra, who had been on high alert, was jolted awake by the faint sound. She shot up, saw Liam's pale face smiling at her, and clapped a hand over her mouth as tears welled up in her eyes. Even though his throat was on fire, seeing her expression made Liam's heart ache. He forced a smile. "What are you crying for?" "I'm fine." His voice was a hoarse croak. The sound was so awful that Cassandra couldn't help but let out a choked laugh. She wiped her tears, pouting. "Don't talk. Your voice is hideous." "Ahem." Liam nearly choked on his own saliva. He coughed weakly. "Well then, my lady, aren't you going to get me some water?" His voice was like a saw grinding against wood, sharp and uneven. Cassandra huffed, stood up, and grabbed a glass of water and some cotton swabs from the table. She called toward the door. "Evelyn, go get the doctor." "Liam's awake." From outside the room, Evelyn's voice answered. Okay. Seeing Cassandra approach with the water, Liam desperately wanted to grab the glass and gulp it down. But his body was too weak, and after the anesthetic wore off, the pain in his leg was a searing agony. You can't drink water yet, Cassandra said, dipping a swab in the glass. She gently removed his oxygen mask and dabbed the wet cotton on his lips. The moisture was a godsend. Liam licked his lips, the desperate thirst finally subsiding. He was about to say something when the door opened. A doctor with short brown hair entered, followed by several nurses. Evelyn came in as well. When she saw the medical equipment and recognized the doctor, her eyes lit up. Liam squinted as they performed a series of checks. Once they were done, Cassandra asked anxiously, "How is he?" "He's out of danger, but that leg will need a lot of time to heal. I recommend he stay off it for the next 3 months. I'll have a wheelchair sent over tomorrow." Aiden said, a relieved smile on his face. He didn't know who these two women were, but the man in the bed was someone the monarch himself had ordered must be saved. Luckily, it was just a bad break. That's good. Cassandra visibly relaxed. She instructed, "Evelyn, go with the doctor and get the details on his care." Evelyn couldn't wait. She never expected Liam's doctor to be the renowned orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Aiden, a man known for having the hands of God. She couldn't pass up such a rare opportunity. "Right away," she said, nodding. "Dr. Aiden, shall we talk outside?" Aiden looked at her, surprised. You know me, how could she not? Evelyn's eyes were practically sparkling. Seeing the confused looks from Cassandra and Liam, she quickly explained, "I studied at the University of Scotland years ago. I've heard of your work." Aiden's name was in the Hall of Fame at one of the UK's top medical schools. She'd heard of his legendary career back when she was a student. She never thought she'd meet him here. "Is that so?" Aiden smiled. "A fellow alum, then?" "Yes. I'm a huge admirer of your work." Evelyn's excitement got the better of her, but a sharp look from her miss made her freeze. "Perhaps, Dr. Aiden, we should talk outside." Of course, Aiden agreed. He turned back to the room. "You can give the patient something to eat, preferably soft foods like chowder. His leg will make things difficult, so later you can get bed." "I get it, you could go now." Liam cut him off, mortified. Did this doctor really have to start discussing his bathroom situation in front of everyone? If his leg wasn't broken, he'd be digging a hole in the floor to hide in. Dr. Aiden, seeing his reaction, said no more and left with Evelyn. With the door closed, Liam finally let out a breath of relief. But beside him, Cassandra crossed her arms, a smirk on her face. Well, I didn't know someone could be so shy. Anyone with half a brain could figure out Aiden was about to say bedpan. Liam was so embarrassed he tried to shrink under the covers. "Come on, my lady, give me a break. I'm a patient. Have some pity." "Oh, you know what it's like to have it rough? Have you thought about what I've been through these past few days?" Forget pity, Cassandra was angry now. Angry that Liam kept everything from her. If he had just talked to her, would his leg be broken right now? "I haven't been able to sleep. And you lied to me. You and my father, you both lied to me. I was worried about Chloe too. We're a family now, which makes her my sister. Why do you get to be the only one to save her? Did you think I wouldn't help you?" She'd been holding these words in for so long. She wanted to say them the moment he woke up, but when he actually did, the words had vanished. If not for the interruption, she might have forgotten them completely. Liam could hear the anger and hurt in her voice. He turned his head. "I was afraid. I know you were thinking about my feelings. But Liam, I'm thinking about you too. I worry about you so much I can't sleep. A single word from you can send me into a tailspin. These past few days, without you here, I could barely even eat." As she spoke, her eyes welled with tears. If you had just told me your plan beforehand, I would have trusted you. I would have supported you. We're a family." Her voice was choked with sobs, each word a heavy stone landing on Liam's heart. She was right. Weren't they bound together? If they were one, then they should face life and death together. He didn't need to hide things from her anymore. She was never a delicate flower that needed his protection. "I'm sorry." After a long silence, he finally spoke, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I'm sorry. This time it was my fault. I should have talked to you. I was reckless." Cassandra hadn't expected such a sudden apology. She hadn't meant to blame him, just to vent. But hearing him say sorry made her panic. "No, that's not it," she explained hastily. "I was just angry that you hid it from me. You did a great job this time. You told my father, didn't you?" The sudden apology had completely thrown her off balance. Watching her clumsy, hurried explanation, an image of her as a child flashed in Liam's mind, her face fierce and defiant. She had stood on the shore, yelling at him, "Go on, let the sea drown me." That was definitely something Cassandra would say, fearless at that age. Comparing that girl to the woman now, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha. He was laughing. She was in the middle of a serious explanation, and he was laughing at her. How dare he get distracted at a time like this? Cassandra's temper flared. What are you laughing at? Nothing, nothing, Liam said quickly, but the smile in his eyes wouldn't fade. He watched her, and in that moment, he felt the full force of her love. She wasn't lying. She truly, deeply loved him. A person's nature doesn't change overnight, but it can be deliberately suppressed for someone, for something. He was the one who had changed her. You're definitely laughing at me, aren't you? Laughing at my explanation. Cassandra's face hardened. She pointed a finger at him. You have a nerve to laugh? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have explained anything. And you dare to laugh at me. I didn't. Realizing she'd misunderstood, Liam hurried to correct her. I was just laughing at something you said to me a long time ago. Something I said. Cassandra paused, confused. What did I say? From her expression, it was clear she didn't remember their childhood encounter. Liam wasn't sure, but he decided to test the waters. I remember someone once told me that if the tide came in, she'd just let the sea drown her. She wasn't afraid of anything. The tide. Cassandra froze, repeating the words, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then it hit her. How did you know I almost drowned as a child? Liam said nothing, just watched her. After a long moment, realization dawned on Cassandra's face. She pointed at him, her expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. Wait a minute. The person who held me under the water when I was a kid. Was that you? Her reaction seemed genuine. She really didn't remember him. It made sense. They were only in elementary school. Most people wouldn't remember something like that unless there were specific memory triggers. Besides, technology wasn't what it is now. No one had cell phones. It was all landlines and fax machines. How could she remember so clearly? Still, Liam couldn't resist a little jab. But I told you my name back then. At the mention of this, Cassandra's face flushed with anger. Who could remember that? All I remember is that after I was rescued, my parents grounded me. She blurted out, then immediately clapped a hand over her mouth and shot a panicked look at Liam. You're not to tell anyone about this. It's my most embarrassing moment. If you dare tell anyone, I'll... Liam raised an eyebrow. You'll what? Cassandra huffed and crossed her arms. I'll lock you up and whip you every day. Liam froze, then cried out. Seriously, my lady? I'm a patient. How can you be so cruel? Cruel? I can be much crueler. Cassandra bared her teeth, waving a threatening fist at his suspended leg. Just you wait until you're healed. I don't care. You're not telling anyone about this. Okay. Liam surrendered immediately. The room fell silent. And in that silence, Cassandra's brain caught up. Wait a minute. That's not the point. Liam flinched, a cold sweat breaking out on his back. Yes, it is. That's the point. No. The point is that you were the one who held me under the water, wasn't it? Her mind had finally circled back, and she wasn't letting it go. Liam shot back. Well, you nearly drowned me first. We're even. What do you mean even? That time, you sank on your own. It's not like I held you under. How is that even? That was after you starved me for 4 days. Well, that's because you tried to run away. If you had just listened to me, none of it would have happened. My lady, are you listening to yourself right now? Does that sound sane to you? Outside the room, the still lingering DR, Aiden pointed toward the door. It sounds like they're fighting in there. Mister, Lynn just woke up. His body is still weak. You miss. He gave Evelyn a pointed look. Don't worry about them. My miss and Mister. Lynn bicker all the time. Just let them get it out of their system. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand, a cheerful smile on her face as she looked back at Aiden. DR, Aiden, could I possibly have your autograph? Aiden, there was a patient in there who had just been wheeled out of surgery, and they were letting them fight like this. Dar. Aiden paused, then reasoned that anyone who could walk into this royally guarded wing was not someone to be trifled with. It wasn't worth starting a conflict, and besides, the woman before him was a fellow alum. He smiled and nodded. Of course. Evelyn's face lit up. She fumbled in her pockets for a pen and paper, but came up empty. Seeing her growing embarrassment, Aiden smiled, tore a page from his prescription pad, and signed his name. Will this do? Evelyn blushed, nodded, and accepted it with both hands. Come to my office, Aiden said with a smile, gesturing down the hall. I'll go over the necessary precautions with you. Evelyn nodded eagerly and followed him. Inside the hospital room, the argument gradually subsided. Liam, having just woken up, was still extremely weak. The long conversation had drained him, but after sleeping so much, he wasn't tired, just exhausted. Cassandra fell silent too, her eyes fixed on him. It felt as if they had crossed a vast expanse of time to finally meet again. Her anxiety had completely melted away, replaced by a quiet calm in their shared gaze. The room grew peaceful. They looked at each other, neither speaking, both with faint smiles on their faces. After a long silence, Cassandra's brow suddenly furrowed. She stared at Liam, a certain phrase of his replaying in her mind. Something wasn't right. Seeing her frown, Liam asked, "What's wrong?" "Something's not right." Cassandra's brow tightened as she stared at him. "You just said something." "What?" Now, it was Liam's turn to be confused. "You said I starved you for 4 days." The pieces finally clicked into place for Cassandra. Her gaze sharpened, boring into him. "Which means, you remember everything from before, don't you?" In an instant, a chill ran down Liam's spine. "You remember, don't you?" Has your memory returned? Her eyes were wide, a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she stared at him, desperately searching his face for an answer. Liam fell silent. He could lie. He could say that the fall from the cliff had miraculously restored his memories. If he explained it that way, Cassandra wouldn't be angry. It wouldn't be his fault for hiding it. But he didn't want to. They had already bared their souls to each other. There was no need for more lies. One lie just led to another, like how Evelyn and the others had conspired to fake Cassandra's pregnancy. If she hadn't turned out to be genuinely pregnant, that game would have had no winning move. He felt there was no need to deceive her any longer. Was it because of the fall? Did you hit your head? Why did the doctor only mention your leg? Did he not do a thorough check? Cassandra suddenly grew frantic, her worry plain to see. Even now, her first instinct wasn't to suspect him of lying, but to worry about him. A warmth spread through Liam's chest. He was in a hospital room, his bed nowhere near a window, yet it felt as if the sun was shining directly on him, warming him from the inside out. "Cassandra!" He murmured her name, his expression softer than it had ever been. Cassandra, who had been about to call for the doctor again, froze. She turned to him. "I'm here." Liam looked at her gently. "The truth is, I never lost my memory." Cassandra was stunned. "Never? Lost it?" "No." Liam nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "At first, I planned to use amnesia as an excuse to escape from everyone. But," he trailed off, turning his head with some difficulty. He didn't need to finish. He was sure she would understand. And she did. Cassandra gave a wry smile. "So, you never expected me to keep chasing you, did you?" "No." Liam didn't deny it. "It was the truth. No wonder. I always felt like you remembered everything. Sometimes I really thought you weren't acting like someone with amnesia at all. But I believed you wouldn't lie to me again. I never thought." Seeing the flicker of hurt in her eyes, Liam grew anxious. He rushed to explain, "I did lie to you on purpose, but back then I never imagined things would turn out like this." He couldn't help it. When it came to people he had accepted as his own, he couldn't lie. He'd watched those romance movies where two people who were deeply in love would suffer through endless misunderstandings that a single sentence could resolve, and he never understood it. Why lie? Wasn't it better to be direct? Especially now, when he was sure of his own heart. Seeing Liam's frantic explanation, Cassandra bit her lip. "You don't have to explain. I'm not blaming you. I'm just..." "Just what?" "I'm just..." Cassandra murmured, but the rest of the words wouldn't come. Liam sighed. "Just say it. We've been through so much. What are you still afraid of?" She was right. They had been through so much. They had a child on the way. What was there left to fear? Cassandra took a deep breath, squeezed her eyes shut, then opened them. "The truth is, I was afraid of you getting your memory back. I always felt like all of this was too good too fast. I was afraid that one day you'd suddenly remember how I treated you before, and you would leave me again." Her voice faltered. "Leave me again." The thought was terrifying. It was like the past few days, with Liam gone without a trace. Every night, alone in their bed, she had felt like she was going insane. Hearing this, Liam's eyes widened. He never imagined that his own nightmarish experiences had, in turn, become a nightmare for her. Hadn't they resolved all of this? Through all their time together, through her defiant choice to marry a dead man, through every time she had swallowed her pride for him. She used to be such a proud, arrogant person, and now, because of him, she had become so timid. For no reason at all, a sharp pain pierced Liam's heart. His breathing grew shallow, and he let out a few dry coughs, sending Cassandra into a flurry of motion. Liam managed a weak smile, a mix of taunt and encouragement. "Get your confidence back, my lady. If I run again, just drag me back. Where's that fighting spirit you used to have? Or has my handsome face completely conquered you?" He really had a talent for saying the wrong thing. What was meant to be an uplifting encouragement came out sounding like a sneer. Cassandra flushed, pointing a trembling finger at him. You, how can you be so shameless?" He always knew how to get a rise out of her. If he wasn't so weak, Liam would have shrugged. But Cassandra quickly calmed down, her reason returning. She snorted, her face a mask of proud defiance. Then it settled. If you ever dare to run again, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth and lock you up. She cracked her knuckles, baring her teeth at him in a playful threat. This time, Liam felt no revulsion, only an overwhelming sense of her cuteness. He smiled, his gaze locked on hers. She wouldn't have to chase him. This time, he had walked right into her web, willingly. Under a flurry of urgent arrangements, Caleb and Catherine Thorne arrived by private jet. Palmer followed close behind, with a team of Thorne security guards escorting a hooded Lawrence Landon and Jason onto the plane. After a few hours, the Thorne contingent arrived at the royal residence. Charles had arranged for a reception team to meet them. Lawrence and Jason were masked and taken to holding cell 1. In the adjacent cell, Sylvia was locked in holding cell 2. The two rooms were connected but soundproof, with a dozen royal guards standing watch. Entry required a direct order from Charles. Meanwhile, Princess Anna was preparing a lavish gift to welcome Liam into the family. 3 days passed in a blur. It was the day of Liam's discharge. A convoy of a dozen luxury cars was parked at the back entrance of the Royal Hospital. The entire area was under tight security. To avoid attention, Liam was wheeled out the back. Cassandra stood by his side, while Evelyn pushed the wheelchair. At the back door, Riley, Haley, Leo, and a still-bandaged Chloe were waiting with bouquets of flowers, ready to celebrate his release. "Chloe, you're not healed yet. Why are you out of bed?" Liam immediately chided her. Beside him, Cassandra wore a similar look of disapproval. "Couldn't stop her, brother Liam," Leo said with a long-suffering look. "Chloe insisted on coming. I told her to wait until she was better, but she said she had to see you." Chloe pouted. "My sister-in-law is here with a baby on the way. What's a little scratch like mine? Besides, if it weren't for my brother and the Thorne family's help, I'd be dead." Say what you will, but Chloe knew how to talk. The single phrase sister-in-law made Cassandra's cheeks flush. In front of everyone, it all felt so natural. Noticing Cassandra's shy expression, Liam smiled and took her hand, squeezing it tight. "Hello, am I invisible?" Riley, dressed in a vibrant orange jacket and jeans, marched forward, looking pointedly at her sister and brother-in-law's clasped hands. "Can you two at least pretend I'm a person? Cuddling in public like this. This isn't cuddling. We're just holding hands. It's my wife's hand. Why can't I hold it?" Liam raised an eyebrow and, as if to provoke her, lifted their joined hands and waved them in the air. This public display of affection was nothing new to Evelyn. Standing behind them like a statue, she secretly rolled her eyes. Haley watched the show with a bag of metaphorical popcorn, thoroughly entertained. Leo's gaze drifted to Chloe's hand at her side. He fidgeted, but couldn't muster the courage to take it. Chloe's attention, however, was fixed on her brother and sister-in-law, her face full of envy. She glanced down at the card on her bouquet, which held well wishes from all of them, including a line in Leo's handwriting. Everyone had their own thoughts, but it was Riley who crossed her arms and started in with the sarcasm. I wonder who it was that used to go on and on about freedom, about choosing freedom over love." The smile on Liam's face instantly froze. Riley, now on a roll, couldn't be stopped. And a certain someone else. How could I possibly like Liam? Why would I ever change for him? My. Cassandra's good mood evaporated, her expression turning stormy. Noticing the shift in atmosphere, Haley nudged Riley's arm. "Miss Riley, maybe you should stop." "Why should I?" Riley said brazenly. "It's my brother-in-law's big day, coming home from the hospital. It's not like my sister is going to eat me alive, is she?" On such a happy day, she felt she could get away with it. Normally, she wouldn't have the guts. "Eat you? No, I haven't sunk to the level of cannibalizing my own sister." Cassandra's voice rang out, laced with a new, biting edge. She stared straight at Riley, her tone dropping several degrees. "But I could organize a team-building trip to Indonesia. Haley, Evelyn, you can all go. It's on me." Evelyn froze, her mouth agape. "Wait, what did I do?" Haley quickly lowered her head and slapped a hand over her own mouth. "Stupid mouth." Hearing this, Riley panicked. "Sis, you can't do that. It's my brother-in-law's big day. You're pregnant. You can't be dealing with all this violent stuff." She turned desperately to her savior. "Right, brother-in-law?" Liam just smirked, squeezed Cassandra's hand, and offered no mercy. "I think my wife has a point. Riley could definitely use a taste of the real world." Riley's face went pale. Cassandra, on the other hand, was delighted. She looked at her sister playfully. "I agree. Why don't we transfer her to the company archives? She's too hyper. It's time she learned to sit still and read some files." That's a good idea. Reading documents is great. It builds focus and you learn things, right? Liam added with a grin. Make her memorize the last 3 months of files. We'll test her on it. Cassandra nodded. I think that's an excellent plan. Evelyn, you can arrange it. Riley was on the verge of tears. Sis, brother-in-law, please don't. I was wrong. I repent. I apologize. I shouldn't have run my mouth. Cassandra just huffed and ignored her, turning to Evelyn. What's the schedule? Evelyn quickly replied. Your father and mother are already at the royal residence. The monarch said he needs to speak with Mr. Lin. Then we'll all go, Cassandra said without a second thought, preparing to move. Liam nodded in agreement. However, Evelyn hesitated. Actually, the monarch said he wants to see Mr. Lin alone. He said he has something to discuss with him privately. As she said this, Evelyn could feel their combined stares practically boring holes through her. When would she stop getting stuck with these miserable tasks? Cassandra's hand paused. She looked at Liam, waiting for his opinion. His answer was swift. There's no need for that. Cassandra and I will see him together. There's no reason to be separate. Often, all a woman wants is a clear stance. Just hearing those words made Cassandra inexplicably happy. If he wants to see you, then you should go. I won't come. If he wants to see you alone, it must be something important. He hadn't expected her to let him go alone, but this kind of comfortable trust was exactly what he wanted. Liam didn't argue. All right then, I'll go ahead. You take them home. The them was unspoken, but Cassandra knew he meant their sisters. Like a family with 2 parents, they were the undeniable core of the group. Terrified of her punishment, Riley scrambled into a car. Cassandra, one hand on her lower back, got into another car with Chloe and the others. Evelyn was assigned to drive Liam to the royal residence. Liam wasn't particularly concerned about what Lord Charles wanted to discuss. His mind was on Sylvia Shaw, the woman who had pushed him off a cliff. That score had to be settled. But how? Exactly, he hadn't figured out. Now that his memory was fully restored, he remembered his childhood, how he had grown up in the Shaw household. The relationships were a tangled, complicated mess. Soon, the car arrived at the royal residence. Charles had been waiting for him in the study. When he saw Evelyn wheel Liam in, an unconcealable excitement crossed his face. Charles wasn't alone. On a sofa near the window sat a woman of noble bearing. She looked to be no older than her early 30s. The moment Liam was wheeled in, she turned her head, her gaze thoughtful as she studied him. Seeing Charles's nod, Evelyn understood and quietly left, closing the door behind her. Charles fixed his gaze on Liam. How was your leg? Knowing it was just small talk, Liam smiled. It's much better. Now, it just needs time to heal. He gave a small bow from his wheelchair. Thank you for your help, Your Majesty. Seeing his formal distance, a flicker of sadness crossed Charles's eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. He gestured to the woman beside him. As long as you're all right. This is my daughter, Anna. Daughter? Liam paused, his mind quickly doing the math. This was a princess. Given Charles's age, Anna must be at least 40, but she looked so young. He quickly turned to her and smiled. A pleasure to meet you, princess. And you? Anna smiled back. She hadn't paid much attention in the hospital room, but seeing him now, clean and composed, she was struck by him. Just like in the photos, Liam was exceptionally handsome, with the deep-set eyes that came from his quarter of royal British blood. Ahem. Charles cleared his throat, getting straight to the point. Liam, I have an idea I'd like to run by you. Charles had helped him immensely and treated him with great care. Liam naturally wouldn't refuse to listen, but he was curious. He couldn't shake the feeling that Charles was being unusually polite, his tone holding a strange, unidentifiable emotion. Of course, Your Majesty. Please go ahead, Liam said with a smile. Charles cleared his throat again, a touch of awkwardness in his eyes. Well, it's like this. My daughter, Anna, has never married. Recently, I've been thinking of finding an adopted son for her, and as it happens, Anna has been considering the same. He stopped there, his gaze lingering on Liam. The implication was obvious, but the reason left Liam stunned. An adopted son? To say this in front of him. Were they thinking of adopting him? Liam's mind raced. No, that's impossible. They were British royalty. He was Chinese. He only knew them because of the thorns. Why would the royal family ever take an interest in someone with his background? Liam had enough self-awareness for that. He quickly changed his tack. Well, you want to find a good one. You could try adopting from a foster home. If the princess is looking, the paperwork should be fairly easy to manage. He was genuinely trying to give Charles advice. When it came to foster homes, he was an expert. It was the only option he could think of. But hearing Liam's words, Charles's eyes filled with a pained sympathy. Here was Liam, right in front of him, leg broken and confined to a wheelchair, yet his attitude was neither servile nor arrogant. And after he had made his intentions so clear, Liam's response was so formal. The more sensible he was, the more Charles's heart ached. Seeing the sadness on her father's face, Anna couldn't bear it any longer. She spoke up. Liam, actually, Anna. Charles cut her off. As Anna looked at him, confused, he shook his head slightly, then turned back to Liam. I'll accept your suggestion. Anna and I will go and choose one ourselves. His voice trailed off. Liam breathed a sigh of relief and quickly changed the subject. Your Majesty, I'd like to ask, the woman who kidnapped me, where is she now? Still carrying a torch for her? Anna, who had been listening in confusion, raised an eyebrow at Liam's question. She had personally witnessed Cassandra's devotion to Liam. Now, hearing him so eager to see another woman, her opinion of him soured with a touch of prejudice. Liam just smiled. Not all. There are just some things I need to discuss with her.